I just need to watch over it, make sure it's good, render a final version, and get that posted. So that'll be a lot of fun. I cover a lot of series. I get a little bit rage mode, which is always great, because everyone likes it when I get into rage mode. I get a little bit rage.
Okay, our volume is working, and you could probably maybe hear our AC in the background.
Yeah, probably. It's probably being in a tiny room like this if the fan is right above us.
Yeah, we had a comment like last time where it was like, hey, do you have the AC on? Like, yeah, we can't really control the AC. The AC kind of controls us.
It's literally right, like not next to this door, but it's across the hall from this door. It is super close.
Okay, I'm just kind of like just adjusting things here, so we're all good to go. I'll get to my sensei in a few. It's like, hey, sensei, I have some notes for you, young Padawan. Like, I know, I had to like straighten my arms a lot more. All right, so waiting for folks to come in. Couldn't do much promotion of this because, like, hey, my phone is running out of battery, so like, hey. But you know what? This is going to be up online afterwards, because we're here to spill the convention tea on Otakon 2021. So I think with that said, let's begin. All right, welcome to another episode of Convention Tea. We're starting to cover conventions again. We're starting to write about conventions for our website, and we also have brand new anime content that we're reviewing. And robots.
And robots. Lots of robots.
So this episode of Convention Tea, we'll be talking about our first major anime convention that we've attended since like forever. I can't remember like the last time we were at an anime convention of this size and scope.
Oh, this size. Okay. I thought
this size and scope. Because I can say like Anime Impulse was like the last one we attended, which is more like, okay, that's a one-day thing that's part of a larger festival. It's still fun. Food, boba, can't complain.
Mm-hmm.
And like I can't remember like the last time we went to a con of like this kind of scope and size that was like just on the like the major side, because in Southern California we frequent a lot of Anime Expo 2019 might be the one.
That was the last big one I think we did. I don't remember doing anything after in like August or September.
Because usually fall time is like pop culture season.
Yeah, and those aren't as large. And we don't go into Comic-Con International because that's just a pain.
It's way too close to Anime Expo.
Yeah.
And then when you find out the dates for Otakon 2021, like of 2022, like oh snap.
Yeah.
But we'll get back into that later.
Well, we're gonna worry about 2022 when we get closer to it, because I can't.
I'm just glad they're having a 2022, because we almost didn't have 2021. We'll get into that in a bit, but. This episode of Convention Tea, we'll be talking about our experience at Otakon 2021. We're glad to be doing press tour conventions again. It's just great to be back in the field, and honestly, I really needed that break for a while from doing press, because okay, how do we reinvent ourselves for like the 2020s, you know? Because like there's a lot more video that's going up versus audio. It's like, okay, let's kind of like do this like video style. So it's kind of like looking at the cool aunt and the cool uncle's convention slides. I feel like we need margaritas and mimosas while we're doing this.
Yeah. Sorry about that. It feels like this is very much a got some sort of like fruity tropical drink for some reason that we have. And we're like, margaritas. Margaritas. We have the pre-made margarita that poured into the cup, and it's being like, all right, so here's us at the airport. Now, you guys think we can know about the airport? The airport is crazy.
Also, this is our first time flying during this era.
Yeah, I don't want to do that again. I would prefer not to.
I told you I had worries and reservations about it. Reservations, no pun intended. All right, let's just shout out to some of our sponsors here. This episode is brought to you by Magic Candle Company. Remember, save 15% when you use EAT15 at checkout.
And they have plenty of scents based off of some of your favorite theme park attractions. So,
which candle would you get for Nero?
Nero's easy because it's Rome burning. There's a very appropriate candle for any Nero cosplayer who needs the smell of fire to surround her at all times. Oh my god, the air conditioner turned off. Alright, we don't have to yell. In addition to that, though, if there's a certain, Disney or Universal ride that was important to you. For example, to me, one of my happier memories with my dad was going on the ET ride here in Southern California, which is no longer existing. And they have extraterrestrial forest, which just recreates the scent of the forest you walk through before you get on the bikes, and it fills me with a little bit of joy and sorrow, because that's what you get when you remember happy times of someone who has passed.
All right, and you can use my promo code over at yemacsweater.com. Use Yemac-Dame Asdable to get 40% off your purchase. So Yemac, we got like some cute sweaters. We got some cardigan sweaters. So if you need to like have like a vintage style sweater with your Lolita cord or whatever else you want to do to be fashionable, highly recommend check out Yemac, and you get 40% off your order if you use our promotional code. Also, I gotta give a shout out to Dragon Combat Club. I've been training with these folks since April. They've been training AAPI individuals and allies to defend against haters. So highly recommend them. Don't be a fuckboy. Also, who are we? What is this ScrollRhapsody thing?
I like how most people watching are people who probably do know who we are already. We've been around. Well, ScrollRhapsody's been around since
I was a college student in my dorm room, 2002, October. I wanted to make this website where I would talk about my convention experiences. I wanted to get away from GeoCities and have my own domain, because I have a credit card now and I can make my own domain thing like all the cool kids. So I made up ScrollRhapsody, and I was using this platform to talk about my convention experiences in the Bay Area, talking myself as a cosplayer, and since then it's evolved from podcasting. We've done anime reviews, he's done Gunpla reviews, and it just became something else. But we primarily just focus in on conventions, convention culture, and just telling you about our adventures at conventions. And this has been an archive of conventions, anime, and pop culture dating back since 2003. So if you want to like deep dive into some convention history, feel free to just browse around our website. Just look through our previous reports in our archive, or just listen into some of our previous episodes of Zero Hour. That was the old podcast we used to host, to just kind of get a feel of like what convention culture was like way back when. All right, let's talk about Otakon 2021. So the final numbers have been released. About 26,000 attendees, or as they call members, were at Otakon 2021. Did it feel like 26,000 to you?
No, but that's because that building is a labyrinth, and I was probably surrounded by only about 200 people at a time.
It didn't feel like 26,000. I mean, it did get a lot more livelier on Saturday, but Saturday is usually the big day. And just mind you, at the door, Otakon is like close to $100 for like the whole weekend. And like, okay, I might not have $100. Maybe I'll just like spend on day. Saturday is usually the big day. So, okay, let's just hit up Saturday. Because I definitely saw like a lot of crowd and a lot of people coming on Saturday, because I was looking at that line going into the convention center and also Saturday. Into the Marriott. Like, whoa, like, wow. So Otakon 2021, that was the final number that they released. I honestly, like on Friday, a lot of people were reporting just kind of just based on experience and feeling. It was feeling more like 10,000, 14,000.
Oh, yeah.
It didn't really feel all that crowded at all. Like this photo here is on Sunday, so you can see that the crowd is a lot more dispersed. And this is like at the area as you walk into the convention center after being checked in. So Sunday obviously was like the lighter day. It was like pitch perfect time to like check out the dealer's room, check out Artist Alley without feeling, well, even then I didn't really feel sardine like in any of the areas of Otakon.
I mean, the dealer hall got a little bit busy on like
it's
Saturday
busy,
and stuff,
but it was not overwhelming.
But yeah, I'd say that no part of the convention ever felt overwhelming or I need to get out of here.
It's not like Anime Expo where we've had those moments in Artist Alley or in a dealer's hall, like, oh no, like get us out of here, quick, send a chopper. Okay, and this is our return to Otakons, and I believe the last time we went to Otakon was 2016. the last year was in Baltimore. If you attended our previous episodes of Convention Tea, we talk about like what it's like leaving Baltimore, and it's scary.
Yeah, I wasn't Baltimore, I had issues at Baltimore. I think I had 2 experiences, both of which had a lot of bad, and not concerning the con so much as just other things. People I roomed with, trying to find a place to eat, things like that. In addition to, that layout on that convention wasn't too bad, actually. Most of the panel rooms were kind of near each other. You just had to go up or downstairs.
It was all the panels were just kind of like were very linear. It's like the LA Convention Center with Anime Expo and LA Comic Con, and the dealers hall and the artist alley. They were like in the basement.
Yeah,
and it's also in the basement here too at the Walter Washington Convention Center. So this is our return to Otakon since 2016. And the reason why we wanted to cover Otakon, it was like one of the first major conventions ran by people we know that would return for 2021. So the story behind Otakon, 2021 almost didn't happen because, like, at least from what I understood, if 2021 wasn't gonna, because they couldn't do a proper 2020 show for obvious reasons, 2020 reasons, we all know, they had to do 2021 to just kind of recuperate the loss from 2020. Mm-hmm. And if they didn't recuperate, this would be the end of Otakon. And I'm like, oh no, I actually like this con. I support the people who run it. And normally I wouldn't fly out to like, okay, let's go save the con kind of thing. But this con has like a lot of meaning to me. I first attended in 2013. I really thoroughly enjoyed this con. It's like, okay, I want to go out and support y'all. And they even had like, they were selling a few things on the Otakon website to like just raise money again. And they also had like an Amazon Smile account. And when we moved to our new place, I decided to use their Amazon Smile account to get furniture for our new place. Because like, okay, at least a percentage of that goes to Otakon's pockets. Okay, maybe a little bit into Jeff Bezos, but like at least I know there's a percentage of it going back to Otakon. Mm-hmm. And I'm also supporting them that way. Even though our badges are comped as a panelist and as press, like, okay, I want to do what I can to support you monetarily just so I can see you guys live another day. And I was just like, okay, if 2021 goes well, and then hopefully we'll have 2022, which thankfully we did get the announcement for 2022. And I think you and I just ended up just preferring the Walter Washington Convention Center just over Baltimore in general.
I like the setup of the Baltimore Convention Center. I like the area around DC a lot better.
Yes, I agree. I like the downtown DC area. I felt there was more food choices, and also thank goodness for DoorDash becoming much more ubiquitous. Meaning, like, we could get like late night food delivered to our hotel room, which also was an issue in Baltimore.
I'll say this. We've walked around Baltimore at night, and sometimes I don't feel quite as safe. We walked around, the convention center area at night multiple times, because oftentimes we were, late. Either, you were finishing up Masquerade, or we were going out and grabbing food, or whatever. Never felt like, oh no, someone's going to jump out of the shadows at me, or anything like that. So, I definitely felt safer. It's kind of strange. It's hard to explain, but just, I don't know, the Baltimore area always felt a little sketchy to me. And also the fact that we could find restaurants that were open after 9 o'clock, that was nice.
That's very nice, and I also appreciate the fact that this one caught you off guard. There's this place called Nando's, and they actually had their restaurant mascots running around the dealer's hall, and they were offering like late night food delivery service to attendees, and they really look at the menu, okay, it's your standard fare Mexican food kind of thing, and like Dole Whip, and you're like...
Yeah, that was kind of a surprise.
Like, Dole Whip, are you sure this is legal to have outside of the Mouse House?
It's just pineapple iced cream. But I thought that, like, it was, Dole Whip parentheses TM or something like that, Like, I know you can get Mickey bars at Target and what have you, but that's a little different, in my opinion.
And in the chat we have Janai. Hey, Janai, how's that bug room treating you? All right, let's talk about getting to Otakon. Or should I just talk about getting to Otakon?
Here's the thing, people. I really don't like wearing my mask for 12 hours at a time.
And that's valid. Like, Totally valid. I mean, I know it's required. Like, absolutely, I'll wear a mask to keep myself and others safe. But like, just when you're thinking about like just traveling, especially when you're thinking about doing those Southwest coast to coast flights, and then you have to like do a layover for a few hours. Like, yeah, wearing that mask after a while just kind of gets okay. Like, okay, here's where I get my drink. Here's where I grab my food. So you just kind of like, sometimes you just need to have a breather. And that's totally valid.
Because it's airport, flight, airport to switch to other plane, flight, and then in the ride share. And it's just at a certain point, I want to rip the mask off and light it on fire.
I made that mask.
I know you did, and it's wonderful, and you were great. But the thing is, like, I can't take that, and I can only breathe in so much carbon dioxide before I start to feel really sick. And I'm glad I got through it. The trip sucked, but the convention was great. So I'm willing to, like, go and say, hey, flying is terrible. Try not to do it.
Here's a tip. Pack some breath mints with you, because after eating something with a lot of onions, you start smelling your onion breath when you're in the mask.
That was on you. I would also recommend, if you have it, any kind of like scented oils or whatever can really help, or even lotion or anything like that has a good scent to it. Just put it under your nose before putting on the mask.
I mean, I do that all the time at work. Like, some of you might not agree with essential oils, but like, hey, like, if it makes you smell something nicer. But yeah, that was pretty much just like our travel, just kind of critique. Just kind of like just traveling in this new world kind of thing. Like, we didn't have to show any proof of vaccination at the airport. Like, we didn't have like, even going to the airport wasn't too bad. Like, just go in and out. It wasn't too crowded. Then again, we flew on a Sunday, not Sunday. We flew in on a Wednesday.
Yeah, we came in a lot earlier because of how flights were set up.
And then our departure flight leaving DC, that had delays.
Our initial flight was fine. Our flight out of Chicago was delayed, and it was driving me up the wall.
Yeah, just kind of just wearing that mask for like that, because that was like more than like 12 hours. But just being like delayed and just kind of like just being on your travel mode for like over 12 hours, even that gets exhausting. So I decided to like, okay, when we got on the plane, I'm just going to conk out and wait for like to land in California.
I think we both napped a little bit. But I remember just feeling like I was just a corpse being dragged out of the airport and back to civilization.
Okay, but that's what it's like to fly in this new world.
Mm-hmm.
Your mileage may vary, no pun intended. Okay, day 0. So, we stayed at the Hampton Inn, which is not too far from the convention center. You just kind of like just walk like maybe a block or two and you're there.
Yeah, it's not that bad.
And we did some sightseeing, just a little bit, like on day 0. Went around the mall. The Mall of Washington is actually not too far from our hotel. It was just like an easy Uber ride over, or if you feel adventurous, it's about an 8-block walk.
Yeah. The heat, that wasn't entirely great.
It was a drier heat than I'm used to, like humid East Coast summers.
I think if I brought a secondary hat, I would have been fine, but I only brought my commander's hat for Azur Lane. And I felt weird just wearing normal clothes and then that hat, which is also, by the way, I wore that hat on the airplane too, and the airplane from California. So that was great. I always felt like, everyone here thinks I'm some sort of weirdo. I was like, why is he wearing his captain's hats? Who is this guy? Why does he have that hat? I'm like, I'm a huge fan of Guns N' Roses. But it's in that category for me. It's not even the right type of military hat. Where I've worn tons of different hats on the airplane there and back again, so it's not that huge of a deal to me, but it felt weird walking around DC with a hat like that. I would have rather just had a standard fedora or something along those lines. Even a ball cap probably would have been fine. Not that I have really many ball caps.
You don't seem like a ball cap person.
I'm not really a ball cap person, and I don't really own that many. I have
You're
like
more
my
of a
Dodgers hat, and I have
cowboy hat person or a fedora person.
Yes,
like legit fedoras, not jewelry.
Yeah, Stetsons and
Panama
fedoras.
hat person.
Panama hat's nice. Yeah, it's probably what I should have brought. That would have been a good like walking touristy hat, I guess.
And you could also cosplay as Belloc from Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I could have.
So yeah, day 0, we just kind of like just did some touristy things, and then we went into registration. And they were like just getting people in and out of registration really fast. Like once you got your badge, like okay, then now it's time to exit. So you can really like just hang out in the registration zones and do some hall cosplay. Like okay, got your badge, okay, you're out. We actually did something for the first time here because we've actually never done this before. Tell me what was member accessibility like?
So they had a section that was set up for anyone who has any kind of disabilities or other issues, which is not every con has it, but several cons do. And I was literally there. I believe I had my folder with all my medical information. I think that was in your purse or something.
It was back at the hotel because we wanted to ask what they needed.
Yeah, before
if we need to show proof of disability.
Yeah. So we went in and we told them the situation. I'm like, if I have to go back and get my papers, like, no, you don't. I can tell. And yeah, I was being guided by you, so it's pretty obvious to tell that I'm relatively visually impaired. Not even relative. I'm really severely visually impaired. And I got my little token for that. And then they also had a support person one for you, which was great.
I got a compatible one.
Yeah. So it falls in that category where if you are someone with a disability and you need an assistant, you guys can go to the accessibility services and they'll provide you with the little things for your badge so that people, if necessary, it never came up. I never had an argument, never had anything like that. But if it ever did, at least I had a little thing saying, "Hey, look, I have visual issues, and I need to be in this seat. Sorry." And the thing is, I usually didn't take the up front seats, mainly because when you try to look at this screen, you got to crank your neck, and I hate that. So I've always kind of been like a normal person seat, usually fifth row.
But something I did appreciate the service that they did have was sign language interpreters, because I actually did see a couple sign language interpreters at panels, and we even had a sign language interpreter at a masquerade too.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's something I don't really see a lot at cons. Like, hey, that's kind of neat they have that service available.
So yeah, anything along those categories is nice, and I like conventions that do this and don't give you a whole hassle about it. I didn't have to go back and get my paperwork. They believed me. They put the thing on. I gave me the thing, and we just moved on with life.
Mm-hmm. All right, masking up. So Otakon, their policy was to make sure that all attendees have their mask on. Originally, the policy was like, unless you're doing a panel or doing a cosplay photo shoot at the convention center.
Which they had their own photo shoot area, by the way. Not I'm standing in the middle of the aisleway like a jerk. They actually had a zone for that.
Mm-hmm. And so all attendees were expected to wear a mask at all times, with the exception of moments where you might need to like just have a drink or somewhere, or need to like just grab a bite to eat in certain designated zones. So I thought,
like going to a theme park.
Yeah, just like going to a theme park. I mean, that's what I was just telling people. Like, it reminded me of going to one of Knox's food festivals, because like, okay, I can like just I'll mask up. Over here, I'll just have my couscous, which was like my diet the whole weekend. I had couscous. And I'll just take off my mask here, just have my couscous, have a smoothie, and just kind of like just move on to the next thing. Always pack some Tic Tacs and breath mints, because yeah, that couscous onion just gets me a bit. But again, my fault. So I thought Otakon did a good job just reinforcing the masking policy. Like, going in, you had to like be wearing a mask. Again, you didn't have to show proof of vaccination. Just had to wear a mask. And obviously, because this is a con, like, not a lot of social distancing going on. I mean, we're going to see photos of like, okay, that's not really 6 feet. But then again, we've been to Knott's Berry Farm. We've been to theme parks where everyone was masked up. And even though there was like not too much social distancing, these are not super spreader events. Otakon was not a super spreader event.
Well, I would also go on the rule that everyone was around the right age for people who got vaccinated. A lot of people who seem to be kind of in our age category.
Our age or younger.
There's people younger than us for sure. But what I mean is there wasn't like a bunch of, 16-year-olds there. I know they can now be vaccinated, but for a while they couldn't be, which there's medical stuff arguing both sides, and that's not what we're here to do.
Yeah, the policy now is under 12 that doesn't need the vaccination. If you're over 12, you need the vaccination.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is I feel that like people who would go to a con seem like the type of people who would be pro-vaccination. That's just the view I've gotten from the... I know there's people of all walks that go to cons, but I don't know why. When I think of, especially anime nerds, more so than pop culture types, we seem to be the kind of people who take this kind of stuff more seriously, who are usually a bit more educated. I know a lot of, people we meet at cons are going to college or are trying to get into college. And it just has that, kind of energy to it versus, say, if we were going to Long Beach Comic-Con, I don't know how, I would really feel about the vaccination level of people there.
Yeah, I just don't trust people in general. All right, let's talk about the maze town that is the Walter E. Washington Convention Center. Jay, take it away.
Okay, so there's 3 levels of this, excluding the lower level where the dealer hall is. You have to take the stairs at certain points. There's a bridge between these 2 buildings at certain locations, and you just kind of have to start memorizing what stairs lead where. And even I was using the guidebook app, and you can go to the map there, but half the time they don't have all the stairs listed, which is great. It means they have an incomplete map on that. And I don't know whose fault that one is, but that one pissed me off. And I was like, okay, maybe I'll go check out the gaming hall since I have this gap between these 2 panels I was going to. Because the gaming hall is just downstairs, and where's the closest stairs to do that? And I'm looking at the map going, why are there no stairs on floor 3? I know there's stairs leading down from floor 3. Why are they not here?
I just feel it just takes, even like at the end of 3 days, or 4 days if you want to count day 0, we still had like issues just trying to memorize the layout, because after a while, like when you have a complicated convention center like this, set up like this, because it took me a while to figure out what's the easiest way to get from the panel rooms to the dealer's hall and vice versa, and where's like the entrance to the Marriott. It's like, oh, there's a secret tunnel to the Marriott. How do I get there? It's just, sometimes it just takes a while to just kind of get used to the layouts.
And just to be clear here, I don't like the general layout of the convention, not the Boston Convention Center, the Heinz Convention Center, thank you, because it's such a weird thing. But here's the deal. I know that on one side of the building is one set of stairs, and on the other side of the building is the other set of stairs. So all I have to do is walk down a hallway, one direction or the other direction, and I will make it to the stairs to go down to the floor I need to go to. It's a horribly designed thing that someone was being a little too cutesy with their architecture degree, but at least I can figure out where I'm going, as frustrating as it is.
I think what would have helped, especially with the Artist Alley and differentiating the Artist Alley and the Dealer's Hall, a lot of people were entering the Artist Alley assuming that it was a Dealer's Hall. So I think what Otakon can do, just for future reference, is to just have some signage right by these things. Like, just having like a sign like, hey, Artist Alley, Dealer's Hall, this way to panels. Like, even have like a sign wavy person, like, follow me to panels or something.
Yeah, something like that would be really, really helpful, because again, I could have gone to the gaming room and I didn't because I couldn't figure out which stairs I should take. And when you have that bridge thing in the middle, you're like, well, if I go across the bridge and go down the stairs, can I get back across? And the answer is like, oh no, you can't do that there, because down you're on the 2nd floor and there's nothing for you to walk on.
Spoiler alert: the gaming room was on that bridge level. It's just right there.
I know. But like I said, the layout for it and the map just made it confusing trying to figure out where you're going. And I can't go and say, oh, next year I'll totally be prepared for this. Because I can go back to the Heinz and navigate there. I'll grumble. I will complain. But I can navigate the Heinz. I just hate how it was built. This is more a point of, like, the maps need to be better. I can figure out where I'm going once I know where I am. And getting to where I am is the initial issue. And I'm lucky I didn't get lost, because I just basically said, screw it, I'm in the panels section and I'm going nowhere else. I'll just wait to find someone else to guide me anywhere. I can figure out which panel room is which, and that'll be good enough.
All right, let's talk about day 1.
Same area for the video rooms, too, had I wanted to do videos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's talk about day 1. So, I just wanted to talk about some of the popular fandoms that were present among the cosplayers at Otakon. So here we have Genshin Impact cosplayers, a lot of Genshin Impact cosplayers, which made me happy. A friend of mine wanted me to bring Lisa, but Lisa is, I call her not convention friendly because that hat would keep slipping off of me. Because I wore that to a photo shoot and that hat wouldn't stay on me. So I'm like, okay, no worries.
You wore it to a mini event and the hat had occasional issues where I had to keep holding it up.
Yeah, that was the event.
Oh. I don't consider that a photo shoot. Was there a photo shoot part of that?
Yeah, there was a photo shoot.
Man, I don't pay attention to anything.
I saw a lot of Klee cosplayers, especially the Kentucky Fried Chicken version.
Klee, that was great.
That was cute. So it was. I love Genshin Impact. Hopefully, knock on wood, my Ningguang cosplay comes in. I've been waiting since March. So yeah, I want my Ningguang cosplay. But I was very happy to see Genshin Impact cosplayers. Like, yay! Also, obviously, a lot of My Hero Academia cosplayers still going strong. Here we have cheerleader variants of the gals.
From the ending sequence or whatever.
Also, a lot of Kimetsu no Yaiba, Demon Slayer cosplayers. Like, I actually did think about bringing my Shinobu. I saw a lot of Shinobus, though. They were, like, all totally off. Like, yay, best girl, I love Shinobu. I kind of want to cosplay as Canal now. I like Canal. She has a crow and she plays with butterflies.
I almost considered bringing my Hero Academia outfit. I didn't, but I considered it. So that could have actually happened had I actually been planning stuff instead of, not.
All right, day one. What was your day one experience like, Jay?
Not too bad. One of my major things, of course, is panels, and a complaint I've had, and I feel like I've had this complaint about several East Coast conventions, but really Otakon and Anime Boston are probably the two biggest offenders on this one, which is every panel I want to do is at the exact same time, and then I have 2 hours of nothing. And sometimes I'll just go to a panel because, oh, screw it, I need to just kill some time. And I've done some interesting panels, and that's a day two story right there. But
we'll get to that.
At day one, I was like, oh, this thing's like, okay, I guess I'll choose this mecha from the 90s. Because as a person who does the Make Mine Mecha panel, which you really should see at any con I go to, because I talk about the history and what helped build the mecha genre into the mecha genre, and I might start updating the panel with clips. We'll see. But I'm always curious what people are going to bring up, because oftentimes it's a lot of, basic answers that kind of just make me roll my eyes like, oh, are you really serious? And this time around, they literally opened their panel with like, look, we're not talking about Evangelion, we're not talking about Gundam Wing, we're not talking about the crap you already know. There's no point in doing that. You know these things. And I'm like, oh, I appreciate that panel. So then they talked about the Brave series, and they talked about Photoms, and they talked about Macross 2. Everyone's favorite Macross entry. Because they can't talk about Plus, because that was in their line of things you already know. It was generally like a fun
I like that panel because they also include Magic Knight Rayearth.
Yeah, MKR made it in there as well. So it was a fun panel that was talking about some interesting 90s mecha things about talking about the same 5 series over and over again. And I really appreciated that, because normally they talk about those 5 series. Heck, anyone who's going to talk about the Brave series in and of itself kind of becomes my friend. And especially Votoms, by the way. We'll get that. I've recently become, again, dipping my toe back into the Brave series pool because of video I just made on the Super Robot Wars 30 series list. One of which is Brave Police J. Decker, which is great. It's a 10-year-old who commands Transformers, because they have car mode and humanoid mode, to fight giant robot crime. And it's great. It is dumb, it is meant for children, and it's meant to sell toys. And if you're a fan of Transformers, you'll love it. You just can pretend that Descartes' name is Prowl, and you'll basically be good. It's considered a weird continuation of Transformers. But, the fact that they went into that, and they went into a few of the different series, and a little bit of the history, just was nice. And the fact that they introduced everyone in there to Votoms, except for the people like me who knew what Votoms was, and I freaking love Votoms. I even referenced Votoms in my recent video, in fact, because it's not on that list, and it really, really wish it was, because it's a cool series, and it's dark, and it's heavy, and it's perhaps the most realistic real robot series, where the robots aren't special in any sort of way. Everyone kind of has the same thing. Think of them as if like fighter aircraft from any war we've had where we had jets. And yeah, your jet could get damaged, and then they'll just repair it, and you hop back into it. Or you trash it and you go, okay, we're just going to give you a new one. But as long as you survive, even if you have to eject, you're going to be jumping back in your next thing and continuing the fight, because that's, what's more realistic than having Gundarium armor that almost nothing can damage, which is less realistic.
Yeah. Also on day one, we decided to wander around the gaming hall, which is on the second floor on that bridge level. And, it was nicely spread out. You can see here, folks are just lining up for DDR. They had a couple consoles set up. They had a very small, indie game area. Nothing really caught my attention right then and there, but I just appreciate
chess game Renai seems kind of fun.
Okay. I forgot what it was called, but I remember just picking up a lot of business cards just for reference in case if we're curious later on. But I do appreciate them having like an indie game section. Like even though it was small, like I do appreciate there was a presence of that there. They even had Wild Bill Soda present. Like we didn't pick up anything.
It's a good location to have it because like occasionally you're gonna be done gaming. And go, man, I need a drink. And you're gonna look over and go, oh, Wild Bill Soda. Okay, perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, plenty of table space if you want to do tabletop gaming or play cards. Like,
unfortunately, they didn't look like they had anything where it was like, hey, here's our pile of pre-made sheets. Please join our game. Which I mean, not that I really had the time to do that, but I would have made the time to do that just to mess around with another character and have some fun with randos from the East Coast. But it's okay.
Mm-hmm. Also, day one is when you had your Final Fantasy panel.
Mm-hmm. That actually went pretty well, and considering the fact that I was starting to have a migraine, so I was loopy on meds while trying to run the panel. Not the first time, by the way. It went really, really well. We talked about things. We didn't have the chance to really add in much of what I wanted to add in there, which is like I really do need to do a massive overhaul on the panel.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking of that. I was going through slides. I was the official like slide clicker person. Normally we have someone else do that job. Like, okay, I'll volunteer a slide clicker person because we were also running off my laptop as well. Like, luckily I brought my handy dandy HDMI adapter because like, hey, maybe I might be streaming on my downtime on day 0. Which I did not, but like I just like to have my adapter with me at all times. I was like, just in case, and this just had to be our just in case.
One of the issues with me is that usually I'm on the other side, where I can actually just look over at the screen real quick and see what's listed, and I couldn't do that because I have a visual impairment and it's on the further side of the screen, and I'm like, what's next? Just whisper stuff to me and I can talk about it. But I was able to still talk about stuff. I added a few, 1 or 2 bonus things in there. I had to rush near the end, unfortunately, because I get verbose. But we did end up talking about, of course, the Chocobo origin, the Cactuar origin, stuff like that always makes me happy. I did not get to tell the story of the, that I always like to do, of the, what are those enemies actually called in the Final Fantasy version? It's what the Displacer Beasts are based off of. But interesting, that's an interesting one where they use the original name. It's those panthers with little tentacles coming out of their mouths. I forgot what they're called off the top of my head.
Well, you can see in a photo, this was our audience. So we had a pretty sizable audience for like a Friday evening.
Oh, yeah. We had audiences at almost every panel were generally decent. Some rooms were like a little too big for the content that was being displayed there, but for the most part, yeah, panel audiences were generally good. And afterwards, I had, 5-6 people come up and ask questions and talk about stuff.
Yeah, you had a couple Lokis show up.
Loki's showing up because they liked all the Norse stuff. Especially because of how I like to portray Loki when I do my discussion about Norse things, including his insane children. And then one person going like, "What? When you talked about Bismarck, why didn't you bring up Bismarcky?" And I'm like, I didn't even think about it, dude. I know he recently died. I feel bad about that. And saying the Biz never sleeps is fun and all, but it's at that point where when I'm talking about, naval history, I'm not usually thinking of hip-hop people from 84.
And plus, that section is like towards the end.
Where I'm just generally trying to get through stuff.
Where you're in lightning round mode.
Yep. Which is why the boats are there, because most of them are pretty quick in terms of what I have to say about them.
Well, yeah, we had a pretty good turnout. I'm glad that we were able to do this panel. So again, thank you, Otakon, for the opportunity. We very much appreciate any opportunity to run panels, because this is our first time running a panel at Otakon since 2014.
Oh, wow.
Moon Prison Pop-Tarts.
Right.
It's only because, because we're in that mode, because they always ask for panels earlier on in the year. They want, a April deadline. And you and I are at the point, are we going to Otakon? I'm not sure we're not. I do appreciate they try to screen things early on so they can get the schedule out right away. But I'm like, we're usually in April's are we going to go? Are we not going to go?
Yeah, I don't remember us sending that much over. Probably 2 or 3 options.
Yeah, I know we sent out Gundam Wing, and we sent out this one because, lessons learned in the past, we don't want to, overload ourselves doing too many panels for a con.
But I don't have as many issues as long as I have a decent audience, and there's a decent audience there, so.
And I really felt the audience, no matter how big or small the audiences were for panels at Otakon, they were always engaged. Even when we went to the Women of Gundam panel on day 1, it was a very engaging audience. It was in the larger rooms, which is also where they were streaming panels as well. Even though it was a very small, spread out audience, everyone was still sitting in their seats towards the end, and everyone was just very engaged in conversation, is cheering on, like, yeah, Lady Oon, like, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Chris McKenzie got a lot of people who love Chris. There's a lot of people. Some of the people entries on that were kind of surprising, like the mechanic lady from 0083, whose name escapes me.
I like Mechanic Lady. I forgot her name too, but she's one of the unsung heroines of Gundam.
Versus me, where if I was going to do my 0083 strong woman, I would have gone with Sima Garahao. She has a kick-ass backstory. She is one of the most stylish Xeon like commanders with her like was it leopard print jackets. And she gets one of my favorite designs that is on screen for like 2 minutes before it's blown up, which is the Gavera Tetra, which I utilize the heck out of in multiple Gundam games if I ever get the opportunity to actually utilize it, because I love what it looks like. It is a Gundam and a Gelgoog fused into one beautiful design. I think that was a Anno design, and it looks freaking great.
Okay, speaking of Gundam, we actually attended like another like late evening Gundam panel, and we thought it was something else, and whoops,
okay, so
turning Gundam is spoiled for me. Here I am just sitting right here. It's like, oh, it's spoiled. Okay.
So there was a panel called I'll pronounce this how it's supposed to probably be pronounced, even though
To Air is Gundam?
To Air is Gundam, which is kind of failing off the whole To Air is Human, and it's talking about, you know, the whole the constant cycle of war is what it's about. The problem is, the way it's also spelled is like So I thought it was going to be because I didn't read the text of what the panel was about.
Why you read the panel description?
I thought it was going to be, let's make fun of Gundam memes, which would have been a really enjoyable evening panel, not a, let's spoil the ending of almost every single Gundam series for those of you who may not have seen how they end.
I'm still going to watch all of Turn A, like, even though, like, okay.
Turn A's great. And has some really likable characters and is an underrated Gundam series. But it's one of those ones where, because like that's a plot point for like the existence of its timeline, and not so much a spoiler for who lives, who dies, who tells your story. That's a reference to a thing. I think it's called In the Heights. So, you know, that was great. It also spoiled the ending of season 2 of 00, which I always think is stupid. I don't have a huge love for how 00 kind of concludes, and the movie. Sorry. Unpopular opinions. Although 00, is the one that has the highest percentage chance of finally leading to peace. Versus I did like him kind of making fun of Wing's ending of like, and then they blew up all the robots and therefore no more war. I'm like, right, because we totally never had wars before giant robots. And then Frozen Teardrop goes and says, oh, that ending? Yeah, we lied. Just totally super wars in the future, and character assassination and cryogenic freezing and teen love parallelograms and
parallelograms. I like how polygons, octagons, hexagons, tetragons.
If you ever want to go deep dive into something that's a hot mess, just find a place online that starts summarizing Gundam Wing Frozen Teardrop. Your head may explode, but if you could just take it as being the stupidest fanfic you've ever heard of, made by the actual writer of the series, enjoy it for that.
Also on day one, I met one of my friends I made, ironically, coincidentally, during a Gundam Wing panel last year, during Otakon Online, because like in the chat, everyone was just kind of like bonding over Gundam Wing, and then like, okay, let's exchange all of our contact information. So this is my first time meeting my friend here, and we were just like, hey, let's just run around in Azurlane. This was completely kind of like off the cuff, because like, yeah, I'm wearing Yorktown later in the evening. I can't guarantee, because sometimes you can't really guarantee what free time you have at a con, especially when everything is just go, 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 especially for us as press. But like, you know what, let's just kind of walk around, and the Marriott is a beautiful hotel for photos. Like, you get that natural lighting come in. Like, granted, we were just kind of like just hanging out in the evening, and I was just testing out my new toy here, because now we are Team Canon. Yeah, I just got my this new camera here. Love it. Yeah, just getting a lot of amazing photos in 4K. So we were just kind of hanging out just at the Marriott, just kind of like just exploring the area, and I'll get into this when I do convention tea with Pearl. We actually did some photo shoots up at the Marriott second level. So, And it was really nice, too, because, like, yeah, we could just take photos of each other, socially distanced, and just kind of, like, just get some group photos of us, like, here as, like, Yorktown and Enterprise, and you as our commander. That was a lot of fun.
I will say it's nice having a team. One of the things I really like when you can pull this off with the cosplay thing, you don't need a larger group than really like 3 or 4 people. But if you can get a whole group of you together, all doing the same series, it's actually a lot of fun. Even though some of our experiences of said groups haven't been great, like our impromptu Torchwood group, that was a thing. But other than that one, that was the thing because one person was a pill. Everyone else is having a good time. But, you know, we've done this before with like JoJo stuff. We've done this before with Bleach stuff. We've done this before. I've done it multiple times with Bleach stuff, actually.
You even did Bleach stuff at Otakon the last time you were there.
Yeah, and I even did it at a Halloween thingy I went to. So it's one of those things wherein when you can have your 2 or 3 friends with you and you can just kind of go together as a team, it just gives you this kind of sense of coolness versus just soloing. And some series, you know, are kind of meant for soloing. Like on day 3 I go as Tatsuya from Way of the House Husband. There really isn't a way to group that. I mean, yes, he has his friends, yes, he has the wife and what have you, but it's you know, no one's really going to recognize those characters without Tatsu. But, you know, obviously someone's going to recognize Deku. Someone's going to recognize Nezuka. Someone's going to recognize anyone from Genshin Impact. But if you could be a team of, say, 4 people from Genshin Impact, now you got a dungeon diving squad together. You know,
especially if you're different elementals.
You get a handful of Demon Slayers together with your Nezuka, and suddenly you have a team ready to kick some butt. You know, and that's a lot more fun. So, you know, you and I going around as Yorktown and Commander is great. Having an Enterprise just makes it that much better. If we had like a Cleveland or
just,
a
complete
Essex
the sisters and get Hornet.
Hornet would be great. And complete the sisters. That would have just made it that next level.
Because Enterprise, I know, is like the popular one that a lot of people like to go as. And I'm like, okay, let me bring Yorktown this time around. And we'll get more into what happened to my Yorktown cosplay towards the end of this presentation. But it was fun running around. We also ran into some of my Boston friends. We ran into my friend Bunny Moon cosplay. She was cosplaying as Hanukkah in her double outfit. And like, yeah, we gotta do a Nozo and Eri one of these days. Like, yeah, we gotta do that. And then Pearl was cosplaying in her Hanayo cyber cosplay, and she's like, yeah, like you gotta bust out your Nico cyber cosplay. Rats kind of ate the headset, but I have found on AliExpress that where I can replace it for less than what I paid for because there's just everyone's just trying to get rid of it. Like, oh hey, fire sale on cyber, and I'm like, do I go Nico or do I go Nozomi? Because like
you change yours, right?
This is true.
Yeah, you can make a choice of what yours you want.
But then, like, Pearl's like, I have Maki, and we can, like, be Nico Maki. I'm like, you are right, go as Nico Maki. And I like me cosplaying as Nico and Cyber.
Yeah, honestly, it's my favorite Nico of yours.
Mm-hmm.
Although I have a slight bias for the Cyber look regardless.
I like how your first impression of the Cyber outfit was like, are these just bunny dominatrixes?
I believe my phrase was sexy dominatrix. When you showed me the picture, I'm like, so they have a sexy dominatrix variant?
Yeah, I guess.
It's like, it's called Cyber, and they're supposed to be like cutesy animals. I'm like,
And they light up. And
right, yeah, those aren't fetish outfits at all.
I just love, when we were at Disneyland that one Halloween, it was cool because I saw not 1 but 2 cyber cosplayers running around Disneyland. Like, oh, there's an Umi and there's a Haneo in Indiana Jones.
Well, if you can light it up at a event like that, it's actually a lot of fun.
Don't tempt me.
You guys can all just hang out and just be the Midnight Electrical Parade. Main Street Electrical Parade. Let's read the one.
Anaheim things.
Oh, that's right. That's only ours.
All right. So day 2.
Day 2 was a wild ride.
Like Mr. Toad.
We ended up rushing over for a panel initially, just to eat a little time, which was.
That was like the opening theme panel?
Yeah, that was the opening. That was the one about the Showa era theme songs and stuff like that, and how they developed from some early stuff. It's kind of cool because we ended up seeing the opening from the original version of Atsumatsu. The Japanese Speed Racer, which is almost identical to ours. They did almost no changes to that. And the tune is exactly the same for the song, which I thought was, we had our own original. No, we don't. It's almost the exact same thing, almost the exact same lyrics, just it's Mach go instead of Go Speed Racer, Go Speed Racer. So
yeah, so while you were at that panel, I was also rehearsing for Masquerade, and I do appreciate the fact that they had Masquerade rehearsal time. Because, like, yay, I can get familiar with the stage, we can talk lighting cues, we can talk about sound cues. So I thought that was really cool that, so we can experiment with the stage and we can just kind of figure things out. So I always appreciate them having a rehearsal. It was very well done. I really appreciate the staff for having this. So just as a stage person like me, I always appreciate just kind of being able to practice in the performance space that I'm going to be using. So, cool. And then after that, we decided to head over to the Fate Cosplay meetup. Yeah. Take it away.
So, you had a lot of what you would expect to find there. A handful of sabers, a handful of archers, and when I say archer, I mean red archer, nameless. Fair amount of Apocrypha people, couple of different people from Zero, and then a lot of random other characters. There were a few other guilds. Most went as the summer guild caster.
Yeah, you still want to go as that
Which
version.
is what I wanted to wear, and I was like, man, I wish I could bring that, and then I would have been like one of 3, and I would have hated myself.
But you went as a casual guild.
I went as casual guild, which is fun, so I can hang out with the Fate Stay Night with this Fate Zero, which is also where he wears it, and then I did a few other things, then after that I was just chillaxing with Solomon and Shiki Tono, which is great.
You were once the Shiki at the Fate
meetup. And I was
once
the Shiki, so we had a lot to talk about there. We talked about fun things like day drinking and the cool part about being the characters that aren't popular, so we don't have to keep running up and running down and running back and running forth.
Because I just started realizing that about me cosplaying as Saber. Because, Saber's my girl. She's always been my girl. And I was like, okay, I'm going to cosplay as Maid Virgin Saber. And I had about 3 weeks to finish this costume. And originally, I was gonna remake the bodice. Because, I don't like how the bodice looks like. So I ended up throwing out the bodice. And then going back into the dumpster, not the dumpster, but the trash can, to find the bodice. Luckily, it was still kind of clean. It didn't have, the garbage scent or anything.
And yet I still had to wash it.
And, I just always like being safe.
I understand.
When you're working with fabric. But I was able to rescue that, and I just love the blue fabric that I just picked out for Saber.
That's very nice.
And this one, I'm really glad how it turned out, and I only had less than 3 weeks to finish, and plus I kind of paused for about a week. Okay, what am I going to do with the bodice? I don't know. And then also I had that realization, oh yeah, she has that ruffle around her neck. Okay, I need to add the ruffle around the neck because it's been a while since I've sewed something for a con. So glad I was able to get Saber done on time.
I liked I brought 2 Fate costumes, and I wore them both from on day 2. I brought Sieg from Apocrypha, and I brought Casual Gil. And I was back and forth as to which one to wear to the gathering. Because I kept saying to myself, if I go as Gil, I'll be one of 10 Gils. And, if I go as Gil, there will be a bunch of really cute Astolfos and Jeans, which would, of course, work well with Sieg. If I go as Sieg, I'll be one of 20 Siegs. And then it doesn't matter how many Astolfos or Jeans, because it's just a bunch of us hoarding on them and simping, and it's not going to be fun. So I decided, screw it, I could still, flirt with a Jean or something if I'm dressed as Gil, so who cares? And I generally had fun just being Gil and then hanging out with the less popular people. We had Narash, we had a Ankers Manu. There's a bunch of us unpopular characters. It was great. And it would have been the same thing with Sieg, is I don't think there was another Sieg there.
I don't think there was. I didn't see any
Astolfo. We had our person leading the whole thing was Mordred, which very aggro person in charge of our shoot, which I guess works.
I appreciate that.
Keeps everyone in line versus having the soft spoken okay, now can we have just the Saber class, please? No, it was Saber class up now. It was okay, yes ma'am. I think we could have had some funny Sieg and her photos.
The meetup was a lot of fun. It just restored my love for the Fate fandom again, because for those of you who know me personally, I've kind of been very jaded with Fate and just kind of been on and off about it after the way Aniplex treated us a couple years ago.
Aniplex America is a terrible company.
Mm-hmm. And I was okay, after they just kind of personally offended us, for lack of a better phrase, just kind of give you the TLDR, I was okay, I'm not sure if I Because when a company offends you and they have a property you like, you kind of have your view on it really changes. It's really hard to explain, but like it's something you love and something that's close to you, and you have the company directly telling you that like you cannot participate in this.
Yeah, you're not wanted.
Yeah, you're not wanted. It really hurts. And I named my car Saber. I literally have Excalibur in my car, and I have like several Saber decals, and even my license plate reads Saber Class. That's how much I love Fate, that I'm willing to name my car after Saber Artoria.
And it's, by the way, it's also like Saber Blue as well.
Mm-hmm.
I just realized like how funny it would have been had I brought that Saber Nesso that you have in your car with me.
And I also have Saber Nessos and Saber figures in my car too. That's how much I love her.
There are photos of me as the Skill holding a Saber Nesso, and I'm like, oh, we should have brought that. That would be the best for the photos. It was like, oh my god, you would kill the Saber Nesso.
Well, since you're planning to do various Gil versions, like
I have his New Year's fancy card version.
Pearl actually wants this, like the next time we cosplay together, she wants us to do the key pals for Nero and Artoria, and wants you to go on the New Year's kimono.
The big issue I have with that one is it's so
layers
many
upon
layers.
It
is not a summer-friendly costume.
It's beautiful, though.
Because it also has bracelets and a choker, and it's just so much that it looks really... It's kind of hard for me to move in that thing. Like, my range of motion...
That's like a photo shoot studio
It is very
only.
A studio thing. I could do it if, like, say, we were in this hotel, which was the Marriott?
Yes, the Marriott.
So if we were staying in the Marriott, and all I had to do was go downstairs, go to photo room, do photo shoot, probably have a few other people go like, oh, dude, before you go, can I get a... Like, oh yeah, sure you can.
and probably get some photos on my camera.
Yeah, and then I could go up to the room, take all that down, keep the wig in the... I lighten my eyebrows before going as Gil, because I don't like what my... Unless I'm going as Ken Masters, there's no excuse for having dark eyebrows and blonde hair. He dyes his hair, by the way. Fun fact about Ken Masters. And then I would just change to casual, or it would change to summertime, or whatever variant of Gil, so I don't have to change the wig or anything else. And then just go back downstairs, and everyone's like, oh, were you the Gil who was... I'm like, yes, I was. It's 6 layers, it's really hot, and it's just a pain to move around in that thing. But it looks awesome on me. There's some photos I think we did some test photos. It looks awesome on me, but it is a heavy costume. Now, if we're going to Katsucon, that's a whole other discussion. We're going to Anime Boston, and assuming I'm not too far of a walk from the convention center, I'm not going on the T dressed like that. But if I can walk to the convention center, or I can go from the hotel directly into the convention center, then I could wear that for a little while. But I can't wear that at a summer con.
Yeah. Also, one of the things that we wish we could have checked out was the Gundam cosplay meetup. Because, like, we gotta meet our people and make new friends.
Yeah, when I was walking around as Bright on day 1, I got into a lot of Gundam conversations, and I very much appreciate that. I wish I'd gotten anyone's contact information. I'm really bad at that.
Well, next time around, we'll have some updated business cards when we go conventioning again. Because I wanted to get updated business cards for, like, hey, here's my Instagram, and here's my Discord, here's my Twitch. Like, let's keep in touch.
Yeah, Dapper Bard Games on YouTube and Dapper Bard's Tavern on Twitch should probably get a little bit of attention.
Mm-hmm. So, like, here we have, like, a Seed crew from Gundam Seed. I'm like, yeah, would have loved to have just worn, like, Sayla or finished up the Nanai. I did wear Relina on day 1, and I was surprised that people actually recognized what I was from, because it's not a very well-known Relina look, so if you didn't recognize me as Relina from first glance, it's because the Toonami version of Gundam Wing cut out the original ending song.
To replace it with an instrumental version of Just Communication?
Yep.
Yeah. And
it's a cool cover.
It's awesome. It's just a rockin' guitar playing. It's
a cool cover. I love that cover of Just Communication, but the ending to Gundam Wing originally for It's Just Love is hilarious.
It is Raylina at the Wild Animal Park and with a doggo.
Harassing animals.
Just kind of harassing animals. I'm surprised the rhino doesn't kill her because she pulls on its tail. It is weird and ridiculous. It has nothing to do with the main series. Because
at no point do the Gundam Wing boys go to Animal Kingdom.
Yeah, or on an African safari. And neither does Raylina, for that matter. She's in, her fancy school, and then she does some globetrotting, then she's in the Sank Kingdom, and then she's in space. So.
And I actually intended to have that costume done for the 25th anniversary, but 2020 happened. Like, I have this costume done. Okay, I'll wear it to Otakon. Like, I'm probably not gonna have people recognize it, but if people do, awesome. All right, day 2. Like, yeah. Well, any other panels you checked out on day 2?
Well, my evening was made up of panels. Mm-hmm. So.
The Sword Lesbian panel. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we did the Sword Lesbian panel, which was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And then, eventually you had to go off to Masquerade, and
I'll talk about it in a few.
I was just panel hopping. So I ended up going to a Digimon panel, which my knowledge of Digimon kind of ends with Season 3 Tamers. And I watched a little bit of Frontier, and I didn't particularly like it. And then I had a friend who was playing some of the games, but I never got into them. So going in through and just having someone discuss, like, what's been going on in the Digimon world. I knew about Tri, I just didn't watch it. And was talking about, Final Evolution and how that's a proper, farewell to the characters. I'm like, okay, I'll have to go check that out when I have the chance. And was talking about what is generally referred to as Pokemon Re:*Adventure, although it is actually called Pokemon Adventure: which is dumb. And it's the reboot and apparently of the whole Adventure saga, which apparently is designed to sell toys more so than the original because they digivolve like every 5 seconds and have all the variant ones they get from some of the games where they get like the elemental themed ones and things like that. And it sounded really stupid to me. Also the fact that like TK doesn't even show up until like 18 episodes in, which is like, what? One of the most important characters, huh? Doesn't he show up to 18? Okay, that's fine. It's fine. It's good. It's fine. So, yeah, that seems like that's kind of a mess. But it was interesting hearing about some of the games and stuff that were coming out and how the card game is now like a Pokemon meets Magic the Gathering and sounds really good. I have no one to play, even if I got into it, and some of those decks sound really expensive. But the new Digimon card game sounds a lot better than the old one, which was basically rock, paper, scissors. You choose your rock, paper, or scissor elemental, and good luck. Versus this one, which actually has multiple elements and stuff, is really kind of cool. And I was like, oh, cool. I learned something new about a franchise. I kind of was like, oh, yeah, that's still around. And I went to one that was about martial arts and stuff like that. It was actually talked about how jiu-jitsu was created, how jiu-jitsu basically kind of lost popularity in Japan during like the Taisho era because martial arts was just kind of looked at as like barbaric. Like, we're advancing, and we have cars, and we have, steam engines, and, oh, you want to go and do your little karates. That's cute. Go over there, barbarian. You're not wanted here. Mm. And so they did. They went to America, they went to Europe, and they went to Brazil. And that's why we have Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, by the way. Which I'm like, oh, that's how that happened. That actually makes a lot of sense.
There's actually a manga I'm reading right now, and I forgot what it's called because the last time I read it was like about a month ago, but I was kind of keeping up with it. And one of the main characters is a practitioner of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and she comes from like, hey, I'm from Brazil, I'm an exchange student.
Yeah,
and they have Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, blah blah blah.
A whole bunch of Japanese people who went to Brazil, and one of them was a practitioner of Jiu-Jitsu and decided to start his own dojo and made his own variants based on some local custom and what have you, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So eventually, someone wanted to bring it back as like a form of exercise and sport, and that became judo, which took a lot of the stuff because jiu-jitsu was designed to combat people with weapons. The idea being that if you dropped your sword, God forbid, or had your hand cut off, more likely, that you could still defend yourself, or if you got caught unawares, you could still protect yourself from an assassin with a knife or a sword. And so it was really built around that. And then judo was just built on, well, okay, now we're both unarmed, let's, wrestle. And, the popularity of that eventually allowed, to other stuff, like pro wrestling gaining a grip in Japan, judo entering into the Olympics, and other martial arts being built out of older tradition and developing into, things that the Japanese viewed as sport and not what barbarians do. Which is kind of interesting, because I always thought that like the martial tradition just stuck with Japan, but apparently, post Meiji Restoration, as they moved into the Taisho era, they were just like, no, we're going to be a modern society. None of this swords, none of this punching people in the face stuff. We're beyond that. Guns exist. We don't need to do this anymore. And, I could get a culture going like that. It's just, goes against what I always believed. Because from my position, I always thought kendo and judo and karate were just always a thing. And no, not so much.
Interesting. I probably would have enjoyed that panel,
you would have. It was a really good history one. Then they ended doing a lot of demonstrations. It was around that time that I kind of was like, I'm going to move on to something else.
Because there was actually a couple of, you had to pre-register for these panels, like, well, pre-sign up in general. They were actually doing some kendo demonstrations and kendo classes at Otakon. Like, God dang, I wish I could have done this. But, like, they were early in the morning, and they also conflicted with my time with Masquerade. So that's what I'll kind of briefly talk about. So Masquerade is like the main event on Saturday, and this year, because the other thing that we wanted to add to this presentation about Otakon is that staff was like not a lot of people came back for staffing because they only had like less than 70 days to prepare for Otakon.
That's how close of notice. When we were talking earlier about whether or not they could do this, that's how close of notice it got.
They only had like 70 days out, and not a lot of people were willing to like go back in because they had vacation plans or like it was on such short notice. But they were only able to have like a fraction of their of like what they usually have on staff. So Masquerade cosplay contests kind of had to be scaled back just a little bit. So for Masquerade, what was different was it was an exhibition. So it was just non-competition, no judging for skits and whatnot. But you know what? You wrote a skit.
Put so much effort into that.
We still had a lot of fun, and I like seeing the audience reaction. But you know what that means? Because it's not a competition, we could reuse it.
This is true.
And we could just refine it for the next convention. And yeah, I mean, I still have the costume. I still want to enter that into a cosplay contest. Originally, I was going to enter that for Crunchyroll, but because of some snafu in registration, long story, that wasn't able to come to fruition. So we decided, like, okay, let's adapt that concept for the stage. And you know what?
I think the script turned out better than what the other one would have been. Mm-hmm. And that means the version 3 is going to have to be better than what this was, which will depend on what convention we display this skit at.
We'll eventually figure that out.
I don't want to spoil it too much, but it's essentially Setsuna Yuki like losing her mind at a con. It's great.
And just kind of give you some highlights of what was at Masquerade. We had like the Hall Cosplay Contest. We had a lot of Genshin entries. You can see here that one of the Genshin entries actually did place, and it makes me happy seeing people who like build their Genshin Impact cosplays from scratch, because like, okay, yeah, even though I make costumes, a lot of those costumes from Genshin can be super complicated. I just end up buying mine. I mean, eventually I would love to make a Genshin cosplay, maybe jean swimsuit. I mean, that's pretty simple enough. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, those costumes, when you just look at them and just analyze them piece by piece, get pretty complicated. And I'm just happy to see people just make Genshin cosplays from the ground up. As far as skits goes, of course, you have like your standard fare of idol performances. I was happy to see a Daya on stage. You had a group called Idol Academy that did this really cute like Neko song. It's part of my Otakon playlist now, and I've been following them on Instagram. They even had like their own presentation on day 3 where you could learn to dance that they performed at Masquerade, and I thought that was pretty neat. I didn't go up on there to learn to dance. I just wanted to be a casual observer while I had my couscous. And and the most cursed thing, I mean this in a good way. One of the weirdest skits I saw at Masquerade, okay, 2 fall in this category. One was who's the bigger simp, and it was in reference to this anime I know that has like a lot of waifu materials called ReZero.
Oh god.
So like, okay, who's the bigger simp for Rem, who's like this blue-haired
she's
main
everyone's
character?
Favorite waifu from that, yes.
And that was all over the place. Like, whoa, like they even had a clarinet solo in there too. No, literally, the Rem cosplayer just kind of went up and just played the clarinet as like 2 people were just trying to like battle it out for her. Because like everyone is simping over her. And then the other curse skits, again, I mean this in a good way, was a Toad cosplayer.
Like from Mario?
Yeah, from Mario. Sang a lip sync to Toad singing Chandelier by Saya. I don't really like Saya in real life after how she's treated disabled people and how she's taken advantage of people.
Look up music, people. It's
horrible. It's horrible. And I love the song Chandelier, but then you have Toad singing it. I actually did find the original audio at work.
Did you do like the Toad like that?
Yeah, and he was singing Chandelier. And like was just doing the dance from Chandelier, and I'm like, whoa. Like, yo, you're flexible. Whoa. And thus we had the return of the chair chant. And also, Masquerade had its own hashtag, so our MC, who was dressed up as Loki, Josh, bless his heart, was just reading tweets for Masquerade, like, on the screen. So it reminded me of, like, Monsters, Inc. laugh floor from Disney World, where you just kind of just reading, like, this tweets directed at the hashtag. Like, yeah, wish me happy birthday, just all this, like, funny stuff. And I thought that was kind of cool that Masquerade had its own hashtag, because you can go on Twitter as Masquerade was happening and you can see everyone's commentaries on all the acts and just kind of the audience joshing the MC.
You could have posted happy birthday to me and Sesame Yuka. That works.
I should have done that just like, kind of like as my outro.
Did you guys have the same birthday?
Mm-hmm. We'll get to that for day 3. But overall, I had a great time at Masquerade. But to me, my favorite part of Masquerade, because I'm not used to this feeling, I really appreciate the fact that I had friends who came out to watch Masquerade. Because just from my personal experience, a lot of people out here on the West Coast where I'm from, they're like, okay, we'll just watch Masquerade when it's uploaded on YouTube. But I just kind of feel Masquerades are meant to be appreciated when you see them in person, because you get the whole vibe. You laugh with everyone. You have that shared experience. You can see the cursed Toad together as a group and feel the curse together.
Talk about it afterwards.
Mm-hmm, and tweet about it afterwards. It was, I don't know, I just miss doing masquerades. I just miss being on stage. And this was just a great experience for me, and I felt like I really needed that just after just a year and a half in isolation. And plus, I haven't done Masquerade on stage since Otakon Vegas 2017. So this was just great to be back on stage. And you know what? I'm willing to do it again. And thank you, Otakon, for this experience, and shout out to all the new friends I made backstage. I kind of wish we had like more time to talk, because once they had us in the lineup ready to go on stage, it's like, okay, we kind of have to be in our own like bubbles before like going on stage, so they can kind of get us in run order. And shout out to that water cooler, because I always get like stage anxiety before going on stage, and like my way of dealing with anxiety is like drinking water before I go on stage and going to the bathroom consistently afterwards. But hey, everyone deals with stage anxiety differently. Mine is like drinking water before going on stage. Like, yeah, another drink, please. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, drink. Overall, had a lot of fun. Shout out to the Masquerade staff for making this happen. Even though this wasn't a competition, it's just fun to be on stage.
So we wrapped the night up with the Mecha-Apocalypse panel.
Mecha-Apocalypse. Say that 10 times fast.
Yeah. And it was kind of a variant on mine. They actually went over tropes and things like that, different genres, why people like mecha, and
memes,
then also going
clips,
memes, a lot of memes.
Right slap.
But they also went over things that was expanding the genre, saying it's not just giant robots, it can also be cyborgs, it can also be, transformable vehicles and things like that. So it was interesting seeing them kind of expand what they believe to be mecha. While I generally am just of the school of giant robots, I don't feel like Cyborg 009 and Gundam Wing should be in the same conversation unless the sentence is both Gundam Wing and Cyborg 009 were both on Toonami. That's the only time you can actually do that.
And I actually tuned in for like the last half of the presentation. I love the presenters, I love their energy, and I just thought they were just very entertaining in how they approach the subject.
They were having a lot of fun with everything they were talking about.
And I appreciate seeing like all the memes just like being like on screen, like here's like an animated gif of the Bright Slap. Over and over on loop.
And having certain little moments of them saying certain things about certain characters, being going like, yes, preach.
Like, even though, like, yeah, like, you and I, we've done the Make Mine Mecha panel, it's always nice to see, like, just other verse people talking about it, because everyone brings their own flavor and everyone brings their own vibe to like interpreting like the whole scope of giant robots.
Well, yeah, and my thing is more for history, and mine is more educational. It's like this series begot this series begot this series.
And I'm usually clicking on the slides and like, and this is being licensed by, and that's the point where you take your drink.
Yep. And my favorite version of that panel is probably the one where the computer could not hook up to anything, and I had friend of the show, Stan, speed draw the various machines and show that to the audience as I'm talking. And that
I loved his Tornado Gundam because it was like a Pringles can on a robot.
Yes, you just used to do the Pringles can face instead of the proper Sid Mead design. In addition to that, like the Mimi type stuff he did with G Gundam and with the Evangelion and stuff like that was great.
I still got photos of it. It's just like my favorite part of my favorite version of that panel. All right, day 3. It's my birthday.
Yep, it was.
Yeah, August 8th is my birthday. So, one of the reasons why I cosplayed as Setsuna Yuki, we share the same birthday. And obviously, on Setsuna Yuki's birthday, there was a Love Live Niji Gasaki meetup on day 3. And there was a small group of us because Niji Gasaki, or Niji for short, kind of still has a bit of a small following. Muse and Aquas are still pretty strong, but you know, I like Niji, I like Perfect Dream Project, and I actually ran into another Setsuna Yuki cosplayer who has like a lot of the Setsuna Yuki merch. I'm just so jealous, like, oh my god, I want that. And then I actually seen her a couple times, like during the weekend, like she was wearing like all these different Setsuna Yuki outfits. Like, oh wow, like I'm just lucky to have like the one outfit that took me about 3 weeks to make before the con, and I'm just, I'm proud of my outfit and I'm willing to wear it again. And this is just one I made from scratch, and so like of course like I had to get selfies with her. Coincidentally, her name is Scarlet Usagi. Like, oh hey, another Scarlet. Good taste. And then it was funny because the meetup was right next door to the Star Wars meetup. So we had like our light pens and they had their lightsabers, and we were just like, okay, we gotta do like light pen duels too. So we were just having fun with it, and I would say like for the first 10 minutes, like, okay, group photos, and like the last like 20 minutes of it was just us just talking about Love Live and just kind of like just sitting in a circle and just kind of sharing our fandom, just sharing like social media and whatnot. So it was a good group. And when I told people how old I really am, people were like, oh my god, are you joking? No, I'm really a vampire. Alright, day 3 was your experience. You're cosplaying from House Husband.
I was, because this is going to be my major shopping day, and it's just an easy costume that I can remove a couple pieces and suddenly I can go through the airport, which is nice. Not a lot going on for me. I mean, it's not a strong day for panels. I had a few things in the early morning, which, I mean, trying to get out of a hotel, your early morning panels are basically just null and void. And I don't remember if I actually did any major...
we actually just did some panels. I know for the morning we ran into the music one, which was nice.
Oh.
That's when we learned about, like, the Sunrise anime about Mozart.
Oh, that's right. The weird one about musical-related animes. Which talked about Sound Euphonium. It talked about Classico, or whatever it's called, that I totally want to watch because it's just...
Classic Lloyd.
Yeah. Where it's fate, but they're all like composers battling each other for reasons. And I'm like, look, there better be Debussy sitting in a corner somewhere just petting a cat and flipping the bird to everyone.
He needs to be the Dundari of the group, but with a cat.
Yeah.
Just saying. And then you went to the Evangelion panel.
Yeah, that was the thing. Not a particularly exciting panel, though I did learn a few things. The original singer of Fly Me to the Moon. Learned a little bit about the rights issues going on there and how she'd been kind of signed a contract that just didn't... No one thought Evangelion was going to be as big as it was, so her contract that she signed initially for it wasn't great, and then when they had the chance to re-up that, they decided to kind of screw her over.
Ooh.
But she does have an album coming out, which is supposed to be good. He played one of her songs. It sounded nice. Talked a little bit about the movies going to Amazon, which are already there now, and talked about, Anno and his current point of view on everything. Talked about some of the whole, the themes and what have you, and which ones are believed to be legitimate and which ones are believed to be Well, let's put it this way. Tommy Wiseau loves to say that The Room was meant to be a dark comedy and wasn't meant to be serious initially, which is a complete bold-faced lie. And so there's aspects of Evangelion in that category as well. And you can determine which ones those are. Then there was like the long raffle that only had a few things I wanted. That Ayanami-themed art book would have been nice. Some of the pins would have been kind of cool. And some of the Nendroids would have been fun, but... Everything else, like the posters and what have you, I'm not really a poster person. Plus, when you have to fly back and you gotta...
Yeah, that's a
whole
pain.
fear of just having your poster get completely destroyed.
I used to have some really good Evangelion posters, which were like illustrations from the manga, but I don't know whatever happened to them.
And, like, the mangas themselves, which don't really mean much to me, in fact. Did I actually keep them? Whatever.
I kept my Angelic Days books, because I thought that was a very funky interpretation.
Yeah, because of all the Eva alternate universes. It was a fine panel for what it was. It wasn't really anything special or memorable, which is why I didn't remember it until you said it. And no offense to the guy who did it, he really knows his stuff. He has a whole Evangelion fan site and stuff. He's clearly an encyclopedic nerd type when it comes to Evangelion. It's just that as a panel, you know, not like there's any big major news. The 4th movie's out. We're done. You know?
Yeah, major news also dropped today that you can pre-order the DVD set for about $200-ish bucks.
I still have my old ADV ones, and they're in the pretty black box that I love.
But this one has art books and stuff.
I understand. But they also release Gundam things like that, and I have none of those.
This is true. Still sitting on seed?
I want it, I just don't want to admit that I want it. So no one heard me say that I want to have... The problem is because I don't think it has Stargazer, but it does have Destiny. And I'm like, well, I'd rather have Stargazer over Destiny if we're going to talk about this stuff. Just like I'm really kind of excited-ish about Eclipse. As excited as I can be over a Seed property, but like the stuff I'm hearing about Eclipse sounds kind of cool. And I need to watch those motion comics. I haven't gotten around to it. My bad.
Yeah, also day 3, I just kind of just browsed around Arts Alley. I know this is a photo of the dealer's hall from the view of the escalator because... on the right hand, on the left hand side, it was like the Idol store that I got like all my Idol merch from. I was like, oh hey, they have a lot of Setsuna Yugi merch that I haven't really seen. I don't really see that much. But then again, last time I went to an anime con was Anime Impulse, and their merch was very few and far between. I was very happy to see Gundam merchandise there. I got my Salem Moss keychain. Like, oh hey, this is kind of a holy grail.
Your Sharzaku keychain there too.
Yeah. I mean, they had a few Holy Grail items out there, which really surprised me. But then, like, okay, let me get some Setsuna Yugi merch. And there was another booth that usually shows up at AX, and they have the acrylic and the rubber stamp charms for Ida bags. Unfortunately, they were telling me that they didn't have a lot of Love Live Niji charms on them, but I just did overload myself with more Nozomi charms, so I can complete my laptop Ida bag of Nozomi-ness, and that made me very happy.
My shopping trip was a bit different.
Yeah, we'll talk about your shopping trip because I have a whole section on that.
Okay.
And on day 3, this is just kind of, again, just coming back, just talking about the panel again. I'm just talking about, like, what day 3 felt like. Day 3, like, it was, I want to say it was almost like a fraction of day 1. Day 3 was just mostly people just doing your last minute shopping, doing some last minute cosplay photo shoots, last minute gaming, and just kind of like walking around and just kind of saying their farewells to friends until we meet again.
Also musicians. At 2 different sections that I was at the convention center, I could hear someone playing their guitar. At one point, I think someone had an electric keyboard. And that was kind of fun, especially when the one guy was playing, like, what was it?
He was playing Beyond the Time, and he was also playing the It's Gendo song by Jamiroquai.
The Jamiroquai Soul Education.
Soul Education.
But
it's
then
Gendo.
the other person ended up playing, like, they were playing a handful of themes, and then they went into Iron Maiden. And I was like, oh my god, is the guy playing Number of the Beast? Nice.
It's like, yes, this is my people.
So when you can have that kind of thing where it's just like, yeah, I just did the theme song to, My Hero Academia, and now I'm going to play Number of the Beast. You're like, all right, you do you, brother. So I did enjoy that. I kind of wish I could bring out one of my instruments, but I played woodwinds, and I don't know what the rule is going to be for playing a woodwind when everyone has to wear a mask, and everyone's afraid of spit. So. But electric keyboards and guitars for the win.
But yeah, so again, this is kind of what Otakon looked like on day 3. It was very small, not a lot of people. I mean, I even went to the Idol Academy dance-off. Well, not really dance-off. It was more like, yeah, let's teach this dance that we showcase at Masquerade. And like, yeah, let's teach it to y'all. And like, okay, I'm just going to sit here and eat my couscous and just kind of just vibe and just observe. And they're really cool. Like I said, I wish I had the energy because I had like that Sunday like energy. I constantly, yeah, Sunday, yeah. I'm still here, right?
I spent all the energy on days 1 and 2. I'm good. Someone just dragged me somewhere and just dropped me in a chair.
Yeah, but my focus on day 3, like, okay, I just need to just get some shopping done, and I got my idol stuff. And I see on the chat, idols, purple hearts, yes, purple idols purple for Nozomi. Yeah, I complete my Ida bag. So proud of myself. Next on the list is completing a Daya bag, and then eventually I will get to a Setsuno Yuki bag. But again, I had a lot of fun with Idol Academy here, following them on their socials, and maybe I'll teach myself this dance because it's on the YouTubes. Also, closing ceremonies. What were your favorite AMVs at closing ceremonies?
I really liked the Perfect Blue one. That one almost made me want to start making AMVs again.
That one made me cry.
That was one of those ones where I'm like, okay, fine, let's get through these, and then I'm like, why are you? Huh? What? Huh? Oh! It's like, if you could just see my facial expressions throughout that one as it just keeps changing when I'm realizing, like, I know these characters. Why do I know these characters? Oh, this is Perfect Blue. It's a song. I'm listening to the lyrics of the song. I'm like, oh.
If you're familiar with the deeper themes of Perfect Blue and what that's all about, paired with this song, and if you're someone like me who's kind of been through a similar situation, that video just really just is just perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I even like added the song to the Otakon playlist because like I like the song too. Like, yeah, I'm introduced to new music because that's what I like about AMVs, introducing me to new music.
And the JoJo one was fine. I probably wouldn't have voted for it, but I would have to see what the other comedic ones were because I didn't think it was that funny.
I like Tactical.
Probably just because I've heard that song 200 times because of you.
I like that song. And you also heard the COVID version of the song.
Yes, the same
and the
version.
Christmas version of that song.
Just using the exact same song over and over again. It's super creative. So because of that, like, the shock of it wasn't that to me. However, I will give points. I always say, when I talk about, as a former editor myself, effort means a lot. And when you have to scrub through 4 different series of JoJo to find everyone doing the specific poses and doing everything exactly as being described in the song.
Shade for me, shade for me, shade.
That
girl for me.
Is in that category of, wow, that must have taken you for freaking ever. Now, granted, we had a whole last year. You could have made that entire video. But, like, I tried to do something like that, trying to get a very specific scenes for a Lupin video, and I had to tap out. And unfortunately, I don't even have the test version that I did. For some reason, it got deleted, and I've never been able to find a copy of it anywhere, and I feel bad about that, because the effort I did put in for what I had was really good. It's just, it was such a freaking slog to go through that. And I realize it's not my style of video, and as much as I would like to do a video like that, I realize I can't do a video like that. I don't have the patience or the mental fortitude to do it. I would rather do something that's more direct and less flashy. Speaking of flashy and efforts, the Best in Show one is a very Best in Show type thing. It reminds me of the old Ijitsu Studios, I think they were called back in the day, who did a lot of, like, let's blend 17 different series together in a way where the characters are actually interacting with each other. If you can ever find the video for Shonen Bushido, it has
that's an amazing video.
Freaking Shonen, and
yes.
If you send in characters from like 2005 all the way back to like 1981, it is a ton of things. It's one of those rare videos where you can have Naruto hanging out with Ryo Seiba, and you're like, oh, okay, that's a thing. And then a few other videos like that. I want to say they're Ijitsu Studios. I can't remember. And that reminded me of that, of just the, oh god, the sheer amount of work that would have go into trying to make this kind of video where just, it's My Hero Academia crossing over with everything. And with a really good song for that too, actually. It's a type of video I would never make because I'm not really I've tried mixing materials before, and I also kind of totally hate that. for reasons that there were too long of editor reasons to explain here. But, you know, I've done my own share of, like, flashy stuff. I mean, obviously Blonde for You has a few original effects in there that I really liked and I thought turned out really well. And that's actually probably my best special effects video. Although I am very proud also of whatever my Death Note video was called. I'm actually very proud of that one as well.
So also during closing ceremonies, they announced the dates for Otakon, and it's going to be 2022, end of July. And you and I just kind of like, ah! Because we had such a great time at Otakon. And like, we want to go back again, but it's just so close to like another con on the West Coast.
Yeah, but see, between the two, I'd rather go to Otakon.
This is true.
And hopefully flying in 2022 will not be the torture session that it was in 2021.
Mm-hmm. Like, just to clarify, we don't have an issue with wearing masks, but wearing a mask for like 12 hours straight and more, especially like when we're dealing with time change, that was an experience. I'll just leave it at that.
I was freaking miserable, and I felt like ripping my mask off and burning it. For anyone who didn't hear that original comment about that.
I made the mask.
I know that, but it doesn't change the... It's not the mask, it's the sheer amount of time, which is why I didn't complain about wearing it at the con. Because if necessary, I could find a location where I could take it off for a bit and get some air where no one else was around, or I could get back to the hotel room and take it off for a bit. I had options. Oh, also, outside at DC, you don't have to wear a mask. So I could leave the convention center and take the mask.
But there are some points when you're in downtown DC where you want to wear the mask because sewer reasons.
It rained, and when it rains, for those who've not from the East Coast, there's a lot of sewer grates and whatever so that you don't flood the streets. Unfortunately, when rain gets in there, it kicks up the smell that's down there.
You're like, okay, I'm going to put my mask back on.
That's less fun when trying to walk back to your hotel room. But, like I said, that is not the issue for me. It's the being trapped in the airport, then on the plane, then in the airport, then the plane, and then the
also,
airport.
Also, they didn't give us service on our last leg flight back to LA.
Yeah.
So, like, okay, can't really get a drink of water, just kind of just have a quick breather.
And you just start to feel really dehydrated wearing the mask because of...
Nice that they gave us some water service.
Yeah, anything.
But anywho, let's talk shopping. So... This is another photo of like what the dealer's hall looked like on day one. This is us going down to further escalators. And you can kind of like, if you can see, there's some Nessos here. You also have the signage of like, yeah, don't forget to wear your mask. We have a Krabby over there. You can kind of see just kind of a little bit of what's going on here. And yeah, let's talk about your shopping experience.
So I wanted to find some harder to find Gunpla. That's always my goal. And I kind of got to get into a weird little story about what's going on with Gunpla right now. For those who don't know, there's kind of a Gunpla shortage. There's a lot of different theories. I have two different major ones. One, the requirements for the Olympics, whatever chemicals are necessary to make the plastic were being used for other stuff for the Olympic facility and what have you over in Tokyo, and so just supply was just low. Two, the more likely one, because COVID hit Japan really, really hard. I believe that probably less workers at the factories. Less workers means less output. Less output means less product. So either way, either it's a supply shortage or it's a production shortage. But either way, I knew there was going to be a bit of a markup from those in the know. And there was. One booth was like obscene on their markups. They were like twice the price. So
we're not going to tell you which one it is, even though the photos here show two booths that are selling Gunpla. We won't tell you which one it is.
Yeah. Literally, there was kits that probably should have ran around $18 tops, going for in the 30s. They had one kit that was like 45, and I'm like, that kit shouldn't go higher than 19. And it was like 45. They also had some premium kits, which I do appreciate, selling them at like $60 a piece. A different booth had a smaller markup. They had a lot of the wing units, which all should be running somewhere between $12 to $15, going for about $20 to $22. It's not as bad of a markup, but I realized I could go to probably my local hobby store or Robots for Less and probably find those kits closer to the price they should be, and that doesn't motivate me to buy. And before anyone says, oh, well, maybe they just marked up a lot of stuff, from the booth that had the smaller markup, they had power bases, and I'm always in desperate need of power bases because I like setting up things to look really cool, and especially for my space units. I was able to buy power bases for them for the average price that they run for. I got one for $8 and a bigger one for $10. So, yeah, that's $18 for both power bases. That's about average. So if the power base price isn't up, but the kit price is up, that tells you what's, what they're worried about running out of. The place that I did buy the bases from, the person there was actually really nice, because I was originally just going to buy one. I'm like, I don't want to get 2 white bases. Pun not intended. I was like, I'll just get 1 white. That's fine for now. If I can get a black one or something, that would be cool, but I'll worry about that at a later date. And he's like, oh, you want to, like, oh, they just only had this one. He's like, oh, we're supposed to have the black ones there. And he went in and dug around. He's like, oh, the box wasn't open. I'm sorry about that. Do you want the black one? I'm like, yes. So I can have a black and white that'll connect together and make like one someone and one someone else to fight each other. It's gonna be Wing Zero and Epion. When I eventually get Wing Zero and they make a brand new edition of Epion, those will be on black and white battling each other, and it'll be pretty awesome. That's the current plan, unless I come up with something better to put on those stands. I have yet to make that decision. All my other stands are great, so there'll be a unique kind of stand there. The other thing I found, which was a Kickstarter from 2020 that I wanted to support, but because of 2020 reasons I didn't, was quest decks. And for those who don't know, quest decks were basically like, let's say you're doing more of a sandbox type D&D thing, and a lot of people do that. You literally can shuffle through there, pull out 3 cards or what have you, and say, oh, there's a notice board at this tavern. Here's the 3 notices, and then have the party go and say, ooh, we want to do the one where there's we need people to find the thief who stole stuff from the king, and he's hiding in a cave in the North Woods. It's just like, okay, yeah, cool. And then the DM can, kind of try to do stuff ideally on the fly. Or if you're really smart, you pull out the deck at the end of the previous session, pull out the cards, let them choose the one, and then the next session you have everything ready to go. And I was like, I don't know if I'll ever use that. I'm not really a sandbox RPG person. Though it is nice for like side questy stuff, if just, especially if you're doing like a module and you're like, oh, at this point, it's just the town has nothing. It's just a waypoint. Hold on. I get my quest deck. Okay, yeah. If people go to the tavern, oh, you hear rumors about and then read whatever the card says. You can choose to do that if you want, and you can add some flavor. But the one thing they had in their stretch goals that I wanted was the Eldritch Oracles one, which is designed for horror gaming and could be utilized in Call of Cthulhu. Call of Cthulhu is something where I feel sandboxing is a little more fun to do, because oftentimes I'll have something where it's like, oh, I have this mission in New Orleans, but you guys are in Boston. So what if you guys got the phone call about this thing in New Orleans, they need you there, but we're the 1920s, you can't just hop on an airplane. But you can take a train, and that train could stop at random towns, and Shuffle's deck. Oh, look at that. While you're in Chattanooga, you hear about a da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And now suddenly we have a side quest in Chattanooga while, they're waiting to switch trains. And I think that could be a lot of fun. I do want to do more Call of Cthulhu in 2022, because it's the one I actually have a little more fun DMing, to be honest, because it's less combat heavy and more RP and puzzle solving heavy, and I do kind of really like setting up puzzles and clues for what's actually going on. So hopefully that'll be a good investment into our D&D nights, which are Fridays, except for this Friday I'll be playing AMVs, but most Fridays it'll be D&D night.
All right. You talked about your shopping experience. I briefly talked about my shopping experience, because like one of our favorite things about doing cons is, hey, checking out the dealer's hall. All right, final thoughts. Do you want to go?
I was just talking. You can go for it.
All right, I'll go. I thought Otakon did a good job with 2021. I'm glad to see that they're back up and running, even though this was done in less than 70 days with a fraction of the staff.
It doesn't feel like it.
Yeah, it feels like Otakon is normal. I mean, I did feel bummed that I missed out on the karaoke room. Like, oh yeah, they call their karaoke room like Oto Cafe, and Maid Cafe wasn't there, so I couldn't see my friend who usually does Maid Cafe.
We miss you, Mrs. Strawberry.
Mm-hmm. And I kind of felt bummed that I couldn't do the photo studio. That's more of a mismanagement on time on my part, because like there was a point where I could have done like, oh dang, I should have, but like nah. But I always recommend, if you have a cosplay and you couldn't find time to arrange a photo shoot, the Otakon photo studio is right across from registration. It's right behind Jay's shoulder there, and great place to just get photos. And I just kind of like, dang, I wish I could got more photos. I had a great time just going through the dealer's hall. Like I said, there are a lot of people, but I never felt overwhelmed once. I didn't feel like that AX level or San Diego Comic-Con level of being sardined in or pushed in. Yes, it was busy, but not once I felt overwhelmed. Like, I even made a comment on Anime Jam Session, like, I felt safer here than I did at a Trader Joe's. And like I said earlier in the show, it felt like going to Knott's Berry Farm during their food festivals. Like, yeah, everyone's masked up, and like, if you need to go grab something to eat, grab something to eat. I think of like my one thing, I don't know if it's on the con or just kind of just the nature, just things, is a Saturday when like no one could hardly get inside the convention center like in the afternoon, because that line to Sheraton was unnecessarily long, and also just that line getting into the convention center on the main entrance on the morning of, like, it was just sneaking all over the place. And I question, like, okay, why is there just one entrance? Can we also like just make it 2 entrances? Because that also caught me off guard too. It's not like they were checking for vaccine cards, because again, as long as you're masked up, you're fine.
That would take forever.
Yeah, that would take forever, because I don't think we're at a point where like, yeah, like we have a digital vaccine passport that it can just scan in like a like on one of those ticket app type things. And I really like the location of the Walter E. Washington Convention Center. I like the fact that we actually did try a local dive on day 0. Really like Calico. That was delicious. And you like to eat them tater tots.
Yeah, it was a really good tater tots, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a little bit hard to find because it's literally a hole-in-the-wall restaurant, but if you're in DC, I highly recommend checking out Calico, and I love their lavender boozy drink. And I also have a bias because I like Calico cats. And I also have a bias because Knott's Berry Farm, their ghost town is called Calico Cove.
Yeah.
And even though a lot of people were saying, like, oh, the dealer's room just kind of felt a repeat of blah, 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 like, well, just kind of understand that just the situation we're in. I was just happy to see anime merch. I was happy to see, like, Idol merch, because, like, yeah, I'm an Idol nerd, and this is what I'm going to buy. When I went to the Artist Alley, I know decals feel more like a West Coast thing than it really is an East Coast thing. I wasn't really looking for decals specifically, but I was looking for a Genshin Impact acrylic charms, because that might be my next Ida bag. But I'm of the mindset for Genshin Impact. I have my favorite pairings. I want my Lisa and Jean acrylics. I want my Beidou and Ningguang acrylics, just so I can make like a pairing themed Ida bag, because I've done that for Azure Lane with Belfast and Illustrious, because I shipped the 2. No pun intended.
It's an odd pairing.
I know, right?
And it's not the 2 that I would put together as a couple under there.
Anywho, but that's just my ship. The point is, it's mine.
I understand. It's fine.
And yeah, I understood. Like, yeah, like if you're going to dealer's hall, given that 2020 happened, you're gonna like not have as much supply as you'd like. You're not gonna see as much variety as you would like. But you know, I was just happy to see Idol merchandise. I was happy to see Setsu no Yugi merchandise. At least that's just my personal experience. I just kind of wish I had, again, more time to explore Artist Alley. I did get to see Sweet Mildred. Got a bunny hat from her, because every time like I post like myself wearing Sweet Mildred hats for like any fashion challenges, any Disney bound challenges, I always get people like, oh, where'd you get that hat? So Sweet Mildred, she sells these hats. So now I can make a Stella Lou Disney bound based off this bunny hat. And that also caught you off guard. Like, are you wearing a bunny hat? Like, yeah, I'm wearing a bunny hat.
Yeah, you were wearing that on the airplane, and I was like, when did you get that?
Yeah, I got it at the con.
At the con. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Coolsies.
Yeah. But overall, also I like the hotel we stayed at, the Hampton Inn. The breakfast, it's all right, but I appreciate a free breakfast, so I can't complain. I also appreciate the fact that there was a CVS pharmacy down the street, so you and I were just stocking up on Simply Lemonade.
Yeah, just to try to have an extra drink in the hotel room that it wasn't tap water.
Mm-hmm. It's let's just kind of have some extra drinky drinks. And luckily our roommates, they had this rosé vodka kind of thing. Hey, what happens if we take the rosé vodka and mix it with a strawberry lemonade? Awesome combination.
Yeah, that was a really good combination. They killed all the bottles Saturday night before we got back.
Mm-hmm. And they also had the idea of getting a Simply strawberry lemonade also from CVS. Yay, more strawberry lemonade. I can't complain. And I also appreciate the fact that we had a fridge and a microwave, so I can heat up his dad's spaghetti leftovers. So yeah, I saved a lot of money just by just bringing leftovers, buying couscous from Trader Joe's, and still kind of keeping a hearty diet during the con because,
we went out to eat 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, we didn't go out to eat a lot, and because I really want to explore more restaurants in the DC area. But you know what? More money we save, more money for merch, right?
Yeah, basically.
Mm-hmm. But overall, I had a pretty good time, and it's just nice to be back at cons. And I felt safe at Otakon, and like I said, I felt safer at Otakon than I did at my local grocery store.
As for me, Otakon was an interesting experience because, like I said, I haven't had the best of experiences of the 2 times I've went. I had moments that were nice, but overall not great experiences. So my real reason for going is just because I really, really missed going to cons, less so than any kind of love for Otakon. And plus, any con that will accept me as a panelist, of course I will go. I'm not going to go and say, screw my obligations, I'm going to stay home. And
also, we had a pretty positive experience running their Make Mine Mecha panel last year for Otakon Online.
Otakon Online went great, yeah. I'm not going to go and complain about Otakon Online at all, but I don't count that as... Online conventions are fun and all, but I don't consider them conventions. If I'm not interacting with other people, if I'm not walking around, it doesn't feel like a real con to me. I need physicality for it to feel like a real con to me. And by the way, there's also cons I've gone to where there's nothing for me to do, and they have a nothing dealer hall, and there's not enough physicality to it that I also do not consider cons. So I really want to be at a con. I knew that they would hopefully run a really good event because I've never had an issue with the Otakon staff ever. In fact, actually, the security I've usually had a relatively positive experience with if they're male. And, I had a knowledge that, okay, I think they're going to run a decent event. I'm curious to see how a con runs in the age of the pandemic, and I get to do a panel. So that was kind of my mindset. I was like, worst case scenario, I could go down the dealer hall, I'll probably find something for my Gunplas. They also had weapon kits. I probably should have looked at those weapon kits. We kind of just briefly looked at them. I was like, I'm not going to wear adult weapons. But I could have used a nice set of Jim or Zaku weapons just to alter things up. Sidetracking. Overall, my experience is very positive. This was the best Otakon I've been to, which is, I don't know if that's saying a lot or saying nothing, but the panels were run decently well. No one seemed to have any kind of technical issues. I had no technical issues. The staff was very accommodating, and I could, explain to them anything that was going on, and they were willing to help immediately, which was great. Seeing people cosplaying from mostly 3 different series is just kind of expected. But there were a fair amount of cosplayers and some creative things in there that I thought were a lot of fun. That was nice to see. It wasn't just the same characters over and over again, which is always nice.
And I think you said something during the con that really sums up the audience of Otakon. I feel that Otakon just really respects all generations of otakudom.
Yeah, so that kind of gets me to kind of my major thing. My things with Otakon became more about personal revelations about myself. The first thing is, especially here in California, if you're not chasing trends, if you're not watching whatever the most popular current thing is right now for this moment, you feel like you're an outsider. Everyone only knows that popular thing that's going to be popular for 5 minutes. And I could go on my sardonic naming a bunch of shows that were flashes in the pan that no one cares about now, that no one ever goes and says, ooh, I should rewatch that. I'm not going to do that. I save that for groups of friends when I need to defend why I'm right and they're wrong. However, going to a con like this, where I realized that I can love... There's 2 genres that got me into anime, way back when. Giant robots, girls with guns. Those are my two favorite genres. I don't like shonen martial arts garbage. It all blends into the same thing. It's someone wearing orange punching someone in the face over and over again. I don't care. And historical stuff is okay, but even that just starts blending into person who's an ultimate swordsman versus bad guys. Versus with robots, you can get a whole lot of different genres. Girls and guns, it's not about the plot. It's about beautiful women blowing stuff up, and that's awesome in my book. So being able to talk with people about how much I enjoy Dirty Pair and Burn Up and Gunsmith Cats, being able to talk about how I like, Combattler V, Voltes 5, not so much Tosho Daimos, Votoms, Gundam, things along those lines, the Brave series, and feel like I'm part of the group, that I am an anime fan, and I don't need to see Jujutsu guys. I don't need to see whatever the current sappy high school romance is. I don't need to see that stuff. And I'm still a fan. I'm still part of the group. I don't get that experience out in the West Coast. I know if I go to a West Coast con, everyone will be dressed from whatever the three most popular things of this moment are, and nothing else. And if I wear something that's different than those things, no one will have any idea what I'm doing. I had multiple people coming up to me going like, Bright! Or going, Sig Zeon! Or going like, yeah, dude, love Gundam.
Yeah, it actually did catch me off guard, what was it, at Anime Impulse, that there were a handful of people who recognized me as Sailor. I'm like, wait, people remember 79? That just caught me off guard.
The age at Anime Impulse, though, was not the usual kids. All the kids were there as Demon Slayers.
No, these are people who are Gen Z, and really? I'm like, yeah, who were coming up to me. I'm like, whoa! But I'm also keeping in mind that there is a contingency of Gen Z and elder millennials that kind of have that nostalgia for like 90s anime, because there's this trend right now that's just kind of been going on, especially during the pandemic, of city pop, where they just kind of like use montage of like 80s and 90s anime. And they just like put retrowave over it, and people are like, "Oh, what's this from? What's that from?" And there's all these Zeds just kind of just going in.
Kind of AMV-ish things.
Yeah.
Huh.
And that's also what got me into city pop. Like, oh hey, I miss this anime. I like that aesthetic. So I was just kind of like just listening to that, just kind of like to sort of just calm my nerves. Like anytime I felt like anxious, like during the pandemic, I was like, oh hey, I recognize that's Madoka from Kimiguri Orange Road. That's from Sappy Maison Ikoku. I couldn't get into Maison Ikoku, I'm sorry.
Don't worry, those are shows I skipped, because I'm like, so is anyone like shooting guns or have a robot?
I like Kimiguri Orange Road. It has a fluff cat.
I understand that. A lot of people love Kimiguri Orange Road. I remember people losing their minds over that when they were talking about getting a release in the US.
It's my romantic trash. Madoka is badass. I love her.
I understand that. I'm pointing out that, like,
but there's one
was too sappy for my taste.
But there's this one shoujo trash that we can get into, and that's called Dear Brother.
Oh, Dear Brother's amazing.
Yeah, I'm actually glad that it's getting a lot of traction right now within the sapphic anime fan community. It's like, yes, more people into Dear Brother. I love this. I will cosplay as Mariko.
It's a freaking soap opera.
I'm looking forward to the day that I cosplay as Mariko at a con.
I take it back. It's not even a soap opera. It is a Japanese telenovela. It is that level of... girls are slapping each other all the time.
We are talking Maria of the Barrio level here.
There's crying.
Don't ask how I know.
There is screaming. There are scandals because your father is involved with something that's left vague, but you can kind of make inferences to what it is. Yeah. It is
Brother
absurd.
Is hell.
Yeah. Characters are related to characters that you don't realize are related to each other. It makes their relationships even more complicated and screwed up. It is everything you want with super likable girls, and you root for your main girl because she's super nice and she's
Mariko
surrounded
is
by all
best
these
girl.
insane people.
It took me 20 years. Mariko is best girl.
And the importance of red lipstick.
Yes. So when it's safe to actually wear red lipstick at cons without a mask, I will definitely rock Mariko because I already know which red lipstick shade I'm going to use.
Yep.
I mean, that's how detailed I am with this cosplay project. It's so simple, I even have it down to the lipstick shade.
And eventually you'll go as Anil, although I think she has a dark pink. I don't think it's actually red. I have to double check.
From Gundam X?
Yep.
Yeah, that's my style. I like wearing my red lipstick before I go into battle. No, this is even true in martial arts. I always wear my red lipstick before I train.
For those who don't know Gundam X, there is a antagonist character who literally, before she launches, you see her pull out her lipstick tube and do her lips. And I want to point out that Gundam X is essentially a Mad Max but Gundam. So you gotta imagine it's when a Mad Max world has the robots like, oh, I'm not launching until I get my lipstick on. No one's gonna see it, but I refuse to fight without it.
But, you know, I can say, like, overall, we had a great time at Otakon. You and I are even watching anime after Otakon, which is kind of...
Well, I was watching anime because I was watching Gundam 00 to keep up with my little brother who just got into it, and...
You and I started watching Demon Slayer. Well, you started watching Demon Slayer for the first time, yes. And I'm just rewatching through Demon Slayer. It's like, yeah, my Kazuka now.
So it's one of those things where I just liked feeling like an anime fan again, and remembering why I loved this medium to begin with. Not feeling... I can't call it judgment, like that people are judgmental of me, because they're not. It's more the point of on the West Coast, I don't exist. And I don't like that feeling. It doesn't... I could not exist at a pop culture con, whatever, I don't care.
Yeah, I'm kind of used to pop culture
people
events.
Those, that's a whole...
Oh, you're too anime for us. Like,
we need to do a con tea on like the difference between anime cons and pop culture cons, because I think people out east do not know the difference. But out here...
I think they know the difference out east, but I think it's a very different beast out here on the West Coast because of... Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's a convention too. Yeah. We got to add that to the list, because we have stories. But the thing is, I'm fine with that. I can be a shadow at a pop culture con. I don't really care. It's not why I'm there.
I call it a geek gentrification.
But when I'm around an anime con and I feel like if it didn't come out 5 minutes ago, we don't care about it attitude, that ruins my time. Because I don't like the idea that everyone doesn't care about the past. The past is important. The past is extremely important. And... You know, most of my panels are educational in nature. I don't think I have a, hey, let's be wacky panel. I think almost every panel I try to teach a little bit. There's a few that are like, hey, nostalgia. We do have a few in that category. I didn't know that was an anime. It's all about childhood cartoons that were actually animes. That's nostalgia. It's not really educational per se. We have, you know, the Tokusatsu one is just, hey, how cool is Tokusatsu? Which is done by other members of our staff.
And we've tried breaking into some of these pop culture conventions, and they told, like, oh, you're too anime. I'm like, what's that supposed to mean? Like, you got something against Asian pop culture? What do you mean by too anime?
Yeah, considering we have video game themed panels, because like we have American pop culture themed panels, and yet we're too anime.
And like a lot of the panels that we were pitching to these cons were like, what is giant robots? What is magical girls? It's not like, here's our deep dive analysis into serial experiments lane.
Yeah, I'm not going to go and do a deep dive into Universal Century mangas, because no one knows what the Universal Century is at a pop culture con. But I probably wouldn't do a panel anyways. It'd be a lot of me bitching and moaning, and less so me actually educating. But the point is, I do like that, and I've seen an Anime Boston crowd. I've seen another Anime Con crowd. I've seen the Kineticon crowd. I've seen the Otakon crowd, even the Katsucon crowd. And Katsucon is kind of probably not great in terms of the crowds because of a certain demographic that goes to that con.
I have a love-hate relationship with Katsucon.
Katsucon is its own monster.
I mean, if I do photo shoots of Katsucon, I'm going to do that either on day 0 or on the very last day and say a day extra. But I do like their programming. A lot of people like, oh, go for cosplay. But the programming, I like the fact that it's 24 hours. And I also like the fact that the dealer's hall and the artist alley are open like a lot later, too, for us to enjoy rather than
that, I do like. But my point being is that...
Oh, the maid cafe was pretty awesome,
those audiences versus the West Coast, where the only con I can seem to ever have an audience at is Fanime. And as a presenter, you need to understand the importance of the audience.
And to have an engaged audience as well.
Yes, an engaged audience. Some people who are sitting there going like, I gotta kill like this time before the rave opens, or I need to, which, Katsucon story. Or, you know, people playing on their phones the entire time and just in the room for
even I admit like, okay, I'm guilty of looking at my phone, but I'm usually looking up something on my phone that's in reference to what they're talking about. And I always feel bad when I do that, because I know just as a presenter, just kind of being a presenter, saying like, yeah, oh my god, they're looking at their phones, am I doing something right? But then as for a person in the audience, sometimes I'm looking up something on my phone or just typing up like, oh, that was a cool thing they mentioned or a cool anime they mentioned. Let me just write the notes on my phone just so I remember.
So, from my perspective, I like feeling like I'm part of the group, and I like feeling that people care what I have to say or what I have to teach them. And I don't get that out west. And getting that out east means so much to me. Like, it's really strange, but Otakon reminded me not only why I was an anime fan, but made me remember why I loved being an anime fan. That feeling I used to have at cons out here before it became trends and less about actual fandom. It's still about fandom out there, and I love that, and I guess it's a thank you to everyone at Otakon, not only people who went to my panel, not only people who talked to me, but everyone there who was just being a cool person. And this was easily the best Otakon. I want to go again.
Let's go.
And maybe I'll enter an AMV if I get a new computer. We'll see what happens.
Gonna go from Team Mac or Team Windows?
I need a disk drive, and I need to have a separate graphics card and processor.
We'll figure it out eventually when we get there. But in the meantime, RAP USS Yorktown.
Yeah, tell the story.
Yeah, quick convention tease story. Maybe I'll repeat this again in my cosplay horror stories. So, there's always one horror story that comes from a convention. Us was the taking of USS Yorktown. So what happened to my USS Yorktown cosplay is, of course, like, when I'm done at a con, when I'm done wearing a cosplay, I take those, like, plastic bags that's, like, just hanging out in the closet, pack them in the laundry bags, the plastic bags, just so I can, just have my laundry and my clean clothes all separate. I know I'm just organized like that. And
no, it's a good idea. It's what I do as well. I separate my dirty clothes and whatever I have that can be reused. So,
if you see here in the center, you can see the main dress of USS Yorktown. And I'm like, so I could have sworn I had packed everything in my suitcase. And then when I got home to do my convention laundry the day after the con, because the suitcase was also my dad's, and it was funny too because I found some of my dad's like important foreign documents in that bag that he thought he lost, which was funny because I lost my Yorktown dress, but he found like his international driver's license in there. Like, what? And I was just kind of like, wait, the Yorktown dress isn't here for some reason. And then we checked your bag. Then we checked with my hotel mates. They couldn't find it. And they did a second look around with their bags, and they couldn't find it. Okay, maybe because of the white part of the dress, maybe it got mixed up in the bed sheets. And then I called the hotel just yesterday, and they said they didn't find anything. So, like, we're just, this mystery of the Yorktown dress just kind of floating around. Granted, this dress was actually made with, like, spare fabric I had. All of Yorktown's actually made of spare fabric I had, so it wasn't a huge loss, but I would need to remake the dress again. Thankfully, I have my sources where I can get the fabric at an affordable price, and I just kind of put that out there. Hey, look, this is what happened to my Yorktown dress. I know I have a lot of you who are fans of my cosplay and follow my cosplay, and normally I wouldn't ask this of people, but if you feel like donating or like feel like just giving me a belated birthday present, it only takes about $30 at minimum with coupons, discounts, doorbusters, what name you, because I always like to go for like those doorbuster sales at Joann's. And I could just rebuild Yorktown. And you know what? In 48 hours, I made double of my goal. I know $60, okay. That should be enough to also just cover for like, I can go for a higher grade fabric. And I could go to Payless and just also get like a blue pair of shoes too. I know I'm a very simple person when it comes to cosplay materials, but you know what? People who donated to the Yorktown effort, to the USS Yorktown effort, we can rebuild her. We will rebuild the Yorktown. Yorktown will sail again.
Just put the plywood over that hole, like they did historically.
I should have got that screenshot. Because I was like, you know, I should have, like, just cope with this. I should just listen to, like, documentaries about the USS Yorktown, because In real life, she did suffer damage, but you know what? She was rebuilt again.
She suffered damage, she was repaired, and then sunk at midway, sadly. But the fact that, like, went through multiple battles, took multiple damage, and they just kept, like, just gluing... It's that whole, joke we sometimes say about certain cosplays, or my model kits sometimes, where, like, this thing is held together by glue and hope. And honestly, by the time you got to midway, Yorktown was held together with glue and hope, and yeah, it took the last few shots it could take, but gave a good pounding back to the enemy at the time, with Hornet and Enterprise really kind of getting a lot of the glory of that battle.
Okay, alright. If you like the stuff we do, donate to our Ko-Fi. We would really appreciate, like, just any dollar amount would help us out. Anything that goes to ScrollRhapsody, if you like our show, we'll definitely go to Jay's new computer, whichever he chooses.
Whenever I choose when I get there. Or travel expenses.
Parking costs.
Potential future cons.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the next con we're gonna be at, because all the variants are just kind of making planning are just kind of funky.
Difficult.
But you know what? We'll stay patient. We're glad that we covered Otakon, because this might be the blueprint of what can we expect from major cons going forward. And that's one of the reasons why we wanted to cover Otakon, because what will conventions look like moving forward? What will the anime scene look like moving forward? And I think Otakon here just kind of gave us a good preview what it will mean for, like, major conventions. And granted, like, even though there was, like, hardly no Japanese guest of honor, I mean, they did do a live stream of a Japanese guest. I mean, it was still a very well-run convention. It was very well put together. You know what? Let's do it again, 2022. Let's go. And again, if you like what we do, support our Ko-Fi, subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe to our Twitch. And yeah, we'd like to just connect with our audience a lot more. Jay, any last thoughts?
Yeah, I'm pretty certain your dress is in the same Twilight Zone temporal bubble alongside some of my lost Gunpla parts. But yeah, thank you for joining us. We really enjoyed Otakon, and I really do hope we get to go to more cons, even if we have to wear masks the entire time. Maybe we'll start working on masks that match certain characters.
Hey, Obunai from Demon Slayer, you did say you did 5 with Snake Guy.
Yeah. I'm not going to worry about that until I finish Season 1 and get to know the characters a bit better. But yeah, I'm kind of in the mindset of really wanting to just kind of experience cons again, to do panels again. And doing it again, giving it a taste of what convention life was like, makes me want to do it again, even though options are very limited, and who knows how much more limited they'll be coming into next year. It's a lot of variables coming up in the next 6 to 8 months.
But let's just stay patient and just kind of just enjoy the good times when we have them.
Yeah.
All right. This is Scarlett and Jay for another dose of convention tea. We'll continue our Otakon discussion with our colleague Pearl on the East Coast. Until then, we'll see you at the con.